Good evening, everybody. Welcome. I call to order our July 11th, 2022 regular scheduled Board of Commissioners meeting tonight. I've asked Mayor Pro Tem Larry Smith to lead us in the invocation and Rich Van Tassel to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Before we stand, Rich Van Tassel is leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight. Hero homes are something that's built in our community, and these are homes that are built with Operation Coming Home and donated back into our community to a veteran or somebody that has, or a family that has qualified for that. A lot of good causes out there. And so Rich's company has built 9 of these in our community and donated them in our community. And so that's here for the nation's birthday coming up, or just recently being celebrated. Rich is here tonight, and I've asked him to lead us in the pledge too. All please stand.
Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. Father, we just thank you for the opportunity to live in this community, live in this state, and live in this nation. Father, I pray that as we gather tonight to discuss issues that affect our citizens, affect our government here, affect our entire community, I pray that you'll give us wisdom as we move forward. And I pray that all we do and say here tonight will be pleasing in your sight. Lord, we ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Rich, come forward, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Rich, I know 9 is a lot, but we'll take a 10th and 11th also. Thank you for what you've done in our community. Next up on our agenda, we have our meeting protocol. At this time, I ask that Town Manager Mitchell review the meeting protocol for public participation as it relates to this meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, board members. Tonight's meeting is both in person and virtual. Tonight's meeting contains a public comment period, 2 continued public hearings, and 3 scheduled public hearings. Due to the hybrid nature of the meeting, the public will be invited to comment both in person and virtually via the Zoom virtual meeting platform. When it's the appropriate time, Mayor Massengill will call on those wishing to address the town board that are attending in person, followed by those wishing to address the board via the Zoom platform. All attendees that have appeared in person to address the board this evening during the public comment period should provide your name and address on the registration sheet at the podium prior to the public comment period beginning. All attendees that have joined the meeting virtually have joined muted. If those joining virtually wish to address the town board during the public comment period, they will need to notify the town host that they wish to speak. For the public's benefit that may be joining the meeting via the Zoom platform, please press the raise hand button in the Zoom application to notify the town host that you wish to address the board. Please press *9 to raise your hand if you are joining by telephone. After an individual has raised their hand, they will enter into a queue. When the time for public comment or a public hearing begins, Mayor Massengill will ask the town host to recognize individuals that have notified the town host that they wish to speak by calling out their name or the last 4 digits of their telephone number. Individuals will be unmuted one at a time and invited to address the town board. We ask all those wishing to address the town board to begin their comments by clearly stating their name and address for the public record. The public is asked to keep all comments to 3 minutes so that all that wish to speak can be heard in a timely manner. And this concludes the protocol for this evening's meeting. Mayor?
Thank you. First item of business is the approval of the minutes from the June 21st, 2022 regular scheduled board meeting and the April 12th, 2022 budget workshop. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the minutes of the June 21st, 2022 Town Board of Commissioners scheduled meeting as presented and recommended, as well as making a motion that we approve the April 12th, 2022 budget workshop as presented and recommended.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on our agenda, first item we have under presentations. This is a reveal and presentation of the mayor's coin. So this was a pretty neat and exciting thing to get to work on this year. our communications director, Susan Weiss, and I began the process for a Mayor's Challenge coin earlier this year, and we ultimately chose a very talented emerging local artist named Jasmine Hicks to design the Mayor's coin. Jasmine, or Jazz as she's often called by our friends, not only brings energy to our arts community, but we're proud to have her work at the Art Center as support staff. In May, Jazz's painting won first place at the in plein air paint-off. And the painting was of the Fuquay Mineral Spring Park. And it also sold at auction and was the most popular painting at the auction for the entire evening. I'm proud that we have Jazz on staff. I'm pleased that we have artists like Jazz in our community and thankful that she lent her talent to this project to help me out. Thank you, Jazz. I love the look of the new Mayor's coin. I'm going to describe it to everybody here, and I'm very proud to give it out. First, I want to mention that it's an informal recognition that I will use to honor people for outstanding service, performance, or accomplishments, or to commemorate a special event. This Mayor's coin, I have to describe it to you, so obviously everybody can't see from that far away here, has designed on one side our slogan here, if you go over here, you are a dash more. And then what Jasmine has designed on here is half of our Fuquay Springs, is our Fuquay Springs Mineral Park, which is also what I mentioned she painted at in plein air. In plein air paint had a snake in it, and I'm petrified of snakes. So Jasmine, I appreciate you not putting a snake on my coin. And then going through the middle, separating it, is railroad tracks. We know the railroad tracks divide our town into two areas, Fuquay and Varina. And then on the opposite side, the above section of the coin has a picture of Varina Station on there. And this coin was completely hand designed and designed to scale right there too, so that then it could be made into a template and put on the coin. And it states our slogan. I mentioned that you are a dash more, and on the opposite side it says Mayor's Coin, Mayor Blake Massengill, and has the town's logo on it, also on that side. Jasmine, will you join me down front, please? So this is Jasmine Hicks right here. And can everybody hear me good now?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Oh,
Making sure
Yes.
you can. As I mentioned, Jasmine helped me in our arts department with the Mayor coin. And you, Jasmine, as you know, you have seen this coin very many times because you designed this coin. And you are the very first person that's getting presented a Mayor's coin for your help in designing this and your assistance with this. So I appreciate you. The town of Fuquay-Varina appreciates you very much with this. And I want to present you this Mayor's coin.
Very cool.
Our second item under presentations that we have tonight is recognizing our Fuquay-Varina High School Athletic Director. Athletic Director James Mountford is Athletic Director of the Year at the High School OT Honors in mid-June, sponsored by WRAL. James has been the Athletic Director at Fuquay-Varina since 2012, and prior to that, he served as head coach of the boys and girls soccer programs. I've known James for a long time, and I'm going to tell you all about him and just some more things about him in a minute on a personal level. But here's some facts about James. The record of accomplishment this past year at Fuquay-Varina High School. The baseball and softball programs both just wrapped up outstanding seasons this spring. Baseball team won the 2021 4A championship. Lost at the Eastern Regional Final in the 3 games to Pinecrest, but that's okay. The softball team also made it all the way to the Regional Championship Series. And the football team went 7-4, finished second in the Greater Neuse River Conference, and made the playoffs. The boys soccer and basketball teams also produced winning seasons, finished in the top half of the conference, and qualified for the 4A playoffs. Folks, we're making to it in some cases, winning state championships, and what an incredible experience for our young folks. This comes from leadership. And James is a leader in our community. He's a personal friend of mine that I've known for a long time. He babysitted me as a kid, and I grew up living next door to James. That's why James may have a gray hair too from babysitting me. I probably put him in your head. His younger brother and him babysitting me, but we're family friends and played in the cul-de-sac and played in the woods. And I love to build forts in the woods and do all kinds of fun things. And James was a few years older than me, and he'd be on the high school bus coming home, but he was always so kind and so much fun with me and his younger brother. We'd be riding our bikes, and James, I don't know if you remember the story in the neighborhood back behind us, and we all had a bunch of wagons tied to the back of our bikes and 2x4s and things, just doing what little kids do, going to build forts in the woods. And in high school, you know, a lot of high school kids don't always hang out with young little kids like that. And we were hollering as hard as we could at James on the bus. I'm sure halfway embarrassing him in front of his friends, but he was like, "Don't worry, Blake, I'll be there when I get off and come play with y'all." And James would always do that. And that shows you his leadership and kindness that James has had right here in this community. And James has stayed here in Fuquay-Varina. James is a product of Fuquay-Varina High School and lives in downtown Fuquay-Varina also. James, will you join me up here, please? James continues to exemplify leadership in our community and his involvement and what he does and his leadership to youth and mentoring these children out here. And James, I appreciate you doing that very much in our community here. And I want to present you tonight with a mayor's coin. Here for you, James. Thank you. When you're in an elementary school and you got a high school neighbor like that, you can't find anybody better to look up to at the time. And so there's just everybody in this room can relate to those memories that you have with somebody right there. And James, what you've done in our community is just incredible. I'm so proud of you. So thank you. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is presentation 4C, recognition, Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Department, staff certification and training achievements. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Parks and Rec Director Jonathan Cox. Good evening.
Good evening, Board, Mayor. The purpose of this agenda item is to recognize Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources staff who have obtained recent credentials and certifications. Tonight we'll be recognizing 4 different certifications and licensing. First, the Certified Youth Sports Administrator Credential is issued through the National Alliance of Youth Sports and is earned upon successful completion of the Online Academy certification process. The CYSA credential is valid for 2 years and must be maintained by attaining 10 hours of continuing education. As CYSAs, staff have access to a variety of tools, resources, and information that equip town staff to offer an engaging, well-managed, and safe youth sports program. The CYSA credential allows youth sports administrators to demonstrate their professional connection to the field while allowing them to network with other CYSAs from around the country and world. This certification provides a fundamental understanding of how quality youth sports programs operate and serves as a professional development opportunity and networking forum. More than 5,300 professionals have earned their CYSA to date, and many organizations require that all youth sports directors earn the CYSA credential. This credential has been a focus of the town's Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Department, which now has 11 CYSAs on staff. At this time, I'd like to recognize staff that has earned their CYSA certification: Adam Hare, Thomas DeGrucci, Trey Baggett, Sid Peterson, Jerry O'Connell, Tiffany Trice, Leslie Poole, Chris Newsom, Mark Hassick, and Anthony DiMarzio. I'm going to go through all 4 and then we can bring everybody forward. All right, so next is the CPO certification. A few years ago, the town invested in a water filtration system for the splash pad located at South Park to conserve natural resources. The filtration system consists of specialized equipment that requires a CPO certification to operate. The CPO certification provides individuals with the knowledge, techniques, and skills required for proper water filtration system operations. CPO training helps reduce risks in and around the water, maintains disinfection and water balance, and manage water chemistry. This training is important for the safe and reliable operation of the town's splash pad. CPOs must retake the exam every 5 years to maintain certification. All CPOs are credentialed through Wake County as operators as well. At this time, I'd like to recognize staff that have earned their CPO certification. Adam Hare, Thomas DeGrucci, Trey Baggett, Mark Hassick, Sid Peterson, Jerry O'Connell, Tiffany Trice, Leslie Poole, Chris Newsom, and Anthony DiMarzio. Employees of federal, state, county, and municipal governments who apply pesticides in the course of their jobs are required to be licensed by the Department of Agriculture of the state of North Carolina. Licensing is accomplished by earning a pesticide certification, a process that involves passing a core exam of pesticide handling and a second exam testing knowledge of a specific area of pesticide use. In Parks and Recreation, applicators earn a turf grass and ornamental license. To maintain certification, an applicator must complete 10 hours of continuing education within 5 years. The Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Department now has 5 licensed pesticide applicators on staff. They are Anthony DiMarzio, Chris Newsom, Ian Cotton, James Malden, and Tyler Polk. And finally, the Certified Parks and Recreation Professional Certification is issued through the National Recreation and Parks Association. The CPRP certification is granted to individuals employed in the recreation, park resources, and leisure services professions who meet the eligibility requirements, including a combination of higher education, work experience, and passing the National CPRP exam. The examination tests knowledge in all aspects of general administration, programming, and operations management of parks and recreation. CPRP certifications are valid for a period of 2 years, and professionals who wish to reapply are required to complete a professional continuing education unit requirements or equivalent academic coursework. Individuals certified as CPRs meet high standards of education, expertise, and experience established in the field of parks and recreation professionals. And many agencies recommend or require CPRP certification when hiring for professional positions. The CPR program is offered by the National Certification Board in accordance with NRPA and the CPRP Certification Committee. NRPA has over 57,000 members. Of these members, only 12% have achieved the CPRP credential. This credential has been a focus of the town of Fuquay-Varina Parks and Recreation Resources administrative staff, of which 10 or 91% have become CPR certified. 91%. The CPRPs on staff include Anthony DiMarzio, Chris Newsom, Jerry O'Connell, Adam Hare, Thomas DeGrucci, Trey Baggett, Sidney Peterson, Mark Hassick, and Leslie Poole.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank y'all very much for what you have done in your job here, taking the time to get these next level certifications and continuing education, and to continue to better yourself and your education in turn is the investment you have with Fuquay-Varina. And thank you for doing that. Citizens appreciate you here in Fuquay-Varina, appreciate what you do here in our community, and your hard work and education does not go unnoticed. for instance, we just recently had our July 1st Independence Day celebration, and that was hosted right there in one of your parks, one of your facilities right there, and it was a record turnout this year. And so thank y'all for what you did at that park and beautifying that park and your participation in that. And so I'm very proud of you. This board is very proud of you. I would love to have the opportunity to shake each one of y'all's hands, and so would each of these board members up here. If you'd be so kind to let us shake your hands, we'd love for you to come right on up here, starting with Commissioner Watson, and we'll take a picture.
You stay here, or go down there? Okay. Thank you. Congratulations. You shake her hand too. Congratulations. Congratulations. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Congratulations. Why you sat way back in the back, then? What, they gun you back there?
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
What's up, my friend? How you doing, buddy? You doing all right? Good to see you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you. Hey, bud, what's up? All right, good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you for all you do for us. I appreciate it. Thank you for all you do. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
We'll squeak me.
Where you going to? I'm gonna hide behind the tall guy here.
Thank you. Congratulations. Next item on our agenda under presentations is a mayoral proclamation for parks, recreation, and cultural resources. I'm going to read this official mayoral proclamation that was issued at the beginning of July in honor of Parks and Recs. Whereas Parks and Recreation is an integral part of communities throughout this country, including the state of North Carolina, and whereas Parks and Recreation promotes health and wellness, improving the physical and mental health of people who live near parks, and Parks and Recreation promotes time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental health by increasing cognitive, performance, and well-being, and alleviating illnesses such as depression, attention deficit disorders, and Alzheimer's. And whereas Parks and Recreation encourages physical activities by providing space for popular sports, hiking trails, swimming pools, and many other activities designed to promote active lifestyles. And whereas Parks and Recreation programming and education activities such as out of school time programming, youth sports, and environmental education are critical to childhood development. And whereas Parks and Recreation increases a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas Parks and Recreation is fundamental to the environmental well-being of our state, and whereas Parks and Recreation is essential and adaptable infrastructure that makes our communities resilient in the face of natural disasters, and whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our state, provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas local parks in our state generated over $6 billion in economic activity and provided over 37,000 jobs, ranking North Carolina as 10th in the nation. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas the state of North Carolina recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources. Therefore, I, Blake Massingill, Mayor of the town of Fuquay-Varina, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim the month of July 2022 as Park and Recreation Month in the town of Fuquay-Varina. Next item on our agenda is presentation, recognition of Public Utilities Department staff. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Public Utilities Director Wagner. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Board Commissioners.
Good evening.
This agenda item is to recognize the Public Utilities Department staff that has achieved some certifications over the last 6 months. The purpose North Carolina requires more than 30 certifications and grade levels to perform various operations and maintenance duties in the water and wastewater systems. Certifications are achieved through experience, schooling, and then examination, and are maintained annually through continuing education credits. Provided is a list of Public Utility Department employees that obtained certification achievements over the last 6 months. Guys, if you can come up and join me. Patrick Walsh has obtained his B distribution certification from North Carolina Water Treatment Facility Operators Board and certification. Zach Hall has achieved his his C distribution water distribution operator certification from the North Carolina Water Treatment Facility Operations Board. Troy King has obtained his biological wastewater grade 4 certification from the NC Water Pollution Control Systems Operator Certification Commission, and that is the highest achievement you can get in the state for that. And Kyle Price has obtained his seed distribution water operator certification from the North Carolina Water Treatment Facility Operators Board of Certification. And so these employees and their knowledge related to the town's public utility systems adds value and benefits to the town daily, and the leadership in our department could not be more proud of what these employees have accomplished in the last couple months.
Gentlemen, water and sewer is vital to Fuquay-Varina's success, and it's vital to any community's success. People often know that water comes out of a pipe and you flush a toilet and then water goes away, but don't realize what it takes behind the scenes to get it done. So thank y'all for being willing to get your certifications, continue to educate yourself, better yourself, and look out for the citizens of Fuquay-Varina. A quick way to mayor's phone rings is if somebody's toilet doesn't flush or water doesn't flow out of it. So thank y'all for keeping the water on and keeping our citizens' toilets flushing at the same time. It would be my honor and this board's honor if you wouldn't mind coming up here and letting each of us shake your hands too, please, starting with Commissioner Watson. Thank you, guys.
I know. Congratulations. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you so much.
Good job, Mike. Can't put the tallest guy in the middle. I'm kidding. Next item on our agenda is our final presentation, U5751 NC55 extension. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Engineering Director Poland and DOT.
And NCDOT, yes, sir. Good evening, Mayor, fellow board members. The purpose of this agenda item is to receive as information a presentation about the U5751 project, the 55 bypass. And with us here tonight is Allison White, who is our senior project delivery engineer with NCDOT, and also the Division 5 division engineer, Brandon Jones. So if you guys would come up and introduce your team.
Good evening, Mayor and board members. I'm Allison White with the NCDOT Project Management Unit. We do have a presentation for you today to share information on TIP Project U5751. So I'm going to start by introducing our team members. We have with us Mr. Brandon Jones, who is the Division Engineer for Highway Division 5. We also have our consultant project team members, Ms. Emily Love, and Mr. Jeffrey Dayton with HDR Engineering. So I'm going to turn the meeting over to Jeffrey and Emily.
Just one IT snag. We should have it resolved here shortly. Oh, so I was going to speak to you. While we're working on that, I'll put a little dead air for a moment. I will share with the board, since we do still have our Parks and Rec director and a couple of our Parks and Rec staff still in the room, we do have, we're in late registration right now for fall youth sports, and thus far we've had 3,500 or nearly 3,500 participants register for fall youth sports, which is, again, setting records for growth in our youth sports division, and we'll see what the final numbers turn out to be when the late registration period wraps up. But again, we're looking at big numbers, which tells us that our investments in parks and recreation fields and facilities is very important. Looks like we're making some progress here. Yeah, that was just timely enough.
Thank you. Evening, everybody. I'm Emily Love. I'm with the consultant project team, so I'm here with Jeff, Allison, and Brandon. Go to the next slide.
Hand that to her.
Yeah, perfect. So I'll quickly note that anybody who, even easier, anyone who was at the public meeting or local officials meeting, this will look a little familiar until the end, but this is the project vicinity, obviously in Fuquay and Wake County, primarily along US 401, NC 55, NC 42, and Judd Parkway. The project purpose is to improve the intersections of US 401 with NC 55 and 42, NC 55 and 42 intersection, and to construct a new roadway connection. The project needs are to address the existing and future congestion at intersections and provide a connector from NC 55 to reach Judd Parkway. A quick project description. We're studying 3 alternatives that I'll get into in just a little bit that were shown on the map on the previous slide. They are different north of US 401 east of Judd Parkway. We are also looking at realigning NC 55, bridging over US 401 and the Norfolk Southern Railroad, and a 10-foot side path and 5-foot sidewalk are included. Here is the US 401 typical section. You can see it has 2 12-foot lanes in each direction, a 30-foot median, and 5-foot sidewalks on either side. And the NC 55 typical section, which is pretty similar, 2 12-foot lanes in each direction, a 23-foot median, a 5-foot sidewalk on one side, and a 10-foot multi-use path on the other. This is just showing very quickly the difference between a corridor and right-of-way. Corridor is something that we look at for assessing environmental impacts. Those were shown on the public meeting map, so they're a lot bigger. They can be 500 to 1,000 feet. When we get down to final design and narrowing down the alternatives, we'll be at the proposed right-of-way width, which will be obviously a lot smaller, 100 to 300 feet wide. This is just a visualization showing the proposed Judd Parkway NC 55, what that intersection will look like at the beginning of the project. And then, like I mentioned, I'll quickly walk through the alternatives. So alternative 1 is the northernmost one. It's shown in the yellow gold. So all the alternatives are the same along the existing Judd Parkway. Alternatives 1 and 2 are the same continuing along Judd Parkway until there's those new location sections. So alternative 1, again, the furthermost north one, will continue on a new location alignment south to the railroad crossing, and then you'll see that all 3 alternatives join there. So they're all the same, crossing the railroad on a bridge and then US 401. Alternative 2 is the middle one in blue. So again, the same on existing Juddway Parkway, and then there's a little new location section to meet alternative 1 at the railroad. And then alternative 3 is the southernmost alternative shown in green. So it varies a little from the other 2 in the beginning. It follows existing Judd Parkway and then Products Road, which is different from the other 2, and then continues south on a new location alignment to the railroad. And that just shows the center lines for emphasis. Okay, so this slide kind of shows how US 401, NC 55, and NC 42 are being realigned. So that circle shows where the existing intersection is. That blue line shows where NC 42 will be removed and realigned. So that will no longer connect there. This shows the new connection from NC 42 to NC 55. This blue line shows where NC 52 will be removed and realigned. This red line, sorry, it was really fast, that shows where the new NC 55 will be realigned to US 401, and that will be a bridge over US 401, so it won't be a new intersection or interchange. New alignment, and this is just kind of showing where all of the new alignments will go. So again, a bridge, the new extension will bridge over US 401, and then they will all intersect where that blue and yellow line are shown. Okay. A visualization showing the North Main Street or US 401 intersection at NC 55, what it will look like. And another visualization showing US 401 at Wilbur Jones Road, just to show you a future look. Okay, project schedule. We are anticipating environmental documents and associated technical reports to be done in fall of 2023. Right-of-way acquisition is currently scheduled for fiscal year 2029, and construction is scheduled for post-year. So this is per the current STIP from NCDOT. Cost estimates also from the current STIP. So right-of-way acquisition at about 1.5 million, utilities at 2.2, construction at 30.6 million for a total cost estimate of $34 million. And this is in the current STIP again. And a quick update since we have last talked to the public. So we had a virtual public meeting in March of 2022. We had 183 attendees. 227 comments were left in the chat box during our virtual public meeting by 93 members of the public. And during the month-long comment period after the public meeting, we received 267 comments by 44 members of the public. So we are working on summarizing those and responding to them, but that will be forthcoming. And that's it. So if you have any questions for me or anyone of the project team, we can take them now.
That's all your presentation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Timeline, recommendations you mentioned later this fall, later this year, some things. Can you give me some rough timeline dates? I saw on there earlier you talking about right-of-way acquisition and construction and technical study and those things. When do you foresee a recommendation on a path?
Would you say this fall, winter?
I think we actually have it tentatively scheduled for November of this year for our CP3 meeting, which is when we would pick the preferred alternative.
What all factors go into when you're choosing a preferred alternative?
All 3 alternatives will be evaluated using different environmental resource studies and technical studies. Also, we have a panel of stakeholders, which include Federal Highway and other resource agencies, as well as CAMPO. The group together would assess all of the impacts and choose the best alternative.
So you look, when you talk about impacts, I'm assuming we're talking about environmental impacts, cost analysis, individual property owners' impacts, residential, commercial, environmental farmland, all impacts relative to something.
Exactly.
Okay. And then in November, when a recommendation, DOT will make a recommendation then, or the consultant makes a recommendation, or who makes that recommendation in November?
It would be a team effort, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brandon or Jeff, but it would be a team effort. It would be our stakeholders, which would be federal agencies along with DOT and also local municipality.
So, I'm not trying to trick up your words, just making sure I understand. I know a lot of people in the public are trying to understand it too. So in November, those groups would have made a recommendation, then on which path is preferred, based on all the studies and stuff that have been done. Who does that recommendation go to? Is it the state DOT or the governor or Fuquay-Varina, or who blesses that path or says no? Don't? What goes from there? What are steps to what happens next for construction? And if, for instance, somebody in here has a difference of opinion on a path preferred, what is their course of recourse? What do they say next? What do they do next?
Hey, good evening. Brandon Jones, Division Engineer. So this is going through what we call a merger process. So that's the team that's made up of different agencies, federal, state agencies that collect and look at all the data that's on all of these alternatives and come up with the best alignment, the preferred alignment. That would become what we move forward with. Now, the timeline on this, going back to a current TIP, our Transportation Improvement Program, shows right-of-way in fiscal year 2029. However, we're working on our 2024 through 2033 Transportation Improvement Program. We're changing how that looks. The preliminary draft of that 2024 through 2033 STIP does not have a right-of-way date associated with this project. However, we're trying to get this preferred alternative set in place because that provides the town, property owners, a decision of what's going to take place moving forward. They can start making decisions.
Gotcha. That's kind of what I was looking for there. Now, if somebody's property is in your corridor zone or design, again, I may not be using the right words, but it's somebody, whether it's commercial or residential, and it's something that has to be DOT buys, what is the timeline for those people? The reason I'm trying to, where I'm going with this is, as you know, residential people and commercial property owners, property kind of sits at a standstill during the process. I'm trying to figure out the answer to them for a timeline.
Yeah, we don't have a timeline. Right now, the timeline is fiscal year 2029 to begin purchasing right-of-way. Our draft STIP proposes to potentially change that. We're not showing a right-of-way date in our draft STIP for anything after fiscal year 28. So we don't have a timeline specifically in our draft STIP for right-of-way.
Okay. So we've heard people have conversations about 540 where property was tied up for long periods of time, and that's the fear, I think, in a lot of people's minds too, is how long is their property tied up?
Yeah. This is totally different than what we would have called our past MAP Act legislation.
MAP Act, okay.
Right? These properties are not held up from being developed if they want to be developed. We understand the implications of having a proposed road project, looking at potential impacts to properties. That's why we're trying to get this part done as quickly as possible. It lets when developments come in, it lets them communicate with us, communicate with the town planning staff to try to figure out the best way to make developments work.
Okay, so if somebody did want to add on to their house or develop something, this does not prevent that.
That's right.
I guess it makes it more expensive for DOT in the end to buy the property, but that's what, it does not stop them. The property's not put on freeze.
That's correct. Okay. Yes, sir.
That's a concern of a lot of people. Okay.
Absolutely.
Board members have any questions or comments for these gentlemen and lady?
I think that was the main one, is how to answer.
I just-
A timeline and who's making the decision, like who makes the decision along the way.
I just had
Commissioner Harris?
Question, Mr. Mayor. I know you had identified stakeholders, and a lot of these stakeholders are representative of different levels of government. I just want to know what weight would the residents who would be impacted carry, or will they have a voice in the outcome of this alternative proposal?
That's been done through our public comment period, and the
Okay,
comments that are being summarized by HDR, and that'll be reviewed by the merger team.
So you're still in the process of
That's
reviewing
correct.
the number of, okay.
Yes, sir.
And then once that's completed, will there be a decision or weight carried in regards to the opinions or the feedback that you get from those residents or those comments?
That feedback's taken into account
Taken
along
into
with
account.
environmental data, human impact data, those type of things as well.
Okay, so all of that is part of the consideration, okay.
That's
all right.
correct.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Further questions? Okay. Management, any questions for DOT or anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think at some point, if I'm not mistaken, Brandon, the merger team will want some sort of feedback from the town on a preferred alternative. And from our standpoint, we would want to understand all of the analysis first before the town board can make an informed decision on that. So I guess that is moving towards the November timeframe. Is that what I'm understanding?
It's what we call the concurrence point 3, correct?
All right, so concurrence point 3 would be when the town board would receive information, and then would be asked for some feedback on that information.
Okay, great. Well, thank y'all for coming here tonight. There's a lot of people in our community that have a lot of questions about this, and so I know some of them are in the room tonight. Others are watching our meeting online, and others go back and watch them after the meeting for information. So thank y'all for coming here today and doing that presentation for the public.
Sure, anytime throughout the next few months as we progress through this project, just let us know. We'll be glad to come back and give an update.
And any other projects that you have that you don't, that money's left over and they don't make sense to do, Fuquay-Varina will take all the money you can spend on our roads and our traffic down here. We're happy to take it.
I tell you what, Fuquay is a great partner with us. Matt and I were talking earlier, and Tracy, that the town of Fuquay is very successful with what we call our LAP dollars that come through the Metropolitan Planning Organization. And that doesn't come by chance. That comes because a lot of preparation's done for those projects before they're submitted to make sure they're competitive. And Fuquay does an outstanding job with that. So we appreciate the partnership to put transportation improvements on the ground. We've got a lot coming this way in the next decade. So.
In fact, later tonight on our agenda, we have one that we get ready to green light to move forward. That's an intersection that's been spoken a lot in our community too. So thank y'all.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is a public comment period. At this time, the town clerk will first call on individuals that are in attendance and have registered to address the town board prior to the meeting. Following those who are in attendance, the IT director will call on individuals that have virtually raised their hand via the Zoom app or by telephone. The public comment period is a time for the public to address the town board about any matter that is not the subject of a scheduled public hearing. Those speaking are asked to begin by clearly stating your name and address for the public record. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes in order that all who wish to speak may be heard in a timely manner. Rose, do you have anybody signed up?
Yes, we do. Daniel Frankel.
Mr. Frankel, please come forward. That's right there. State your name for the record and address.
Good evening. My name is Danny Frankel. My address is 2012 Torrey, T-O-R-Y Drive in Yadkinville, North Carolina. I hope it's okay that I wanted to address a brief comment to the board regarding the presentation that you just heard. I am a member of one of 5 families that purchased the property on either side of Products Road between Judd Parkway and Sunset Lake. It's, I think, getting close to 15 years ago. When we purchased that property, of course, there was no Products Road. And fairly soon after we purchased the property, we turned our attention to constructing Products Road because you may remember even then there was congestion on Sunset Lake, and the town was very concerned about the congestion and wanted a second local connector, if you will, between Judd Parkway and Products Road in order to compensate for buildup on Broad Street. By the time we completed construction of Products Road, I'm not sure that people felt that congestion was all that alleviated because of the buildup over that time of traffic. And I drove in this evening on Sunset Lake and was worried if I was going to get here late because of the congestion on Sunset Lake. And I'm not surprised that the town is now undertaking a study to widen Sunset Lake in order to hopefully reduce the congestion and traffic between especially Main Street and Products Road. My concern is I'm really wondering if Products Road becomes bypass 52 as well. If you think about the increased volume of traffic and the number of drivers that are going to be making left turns and right turns from Products Road onto Sunset Lake, and the congestion, gridlock that may create, that I really wonder what that does to the town. And in effect, I'm asking and wondering if it's in the town's interest to combine a local connector, which is Products Road today, and a regional connector, which would be bypass 52. And if in effect you're creating a level of congestion that would be more disruptive and create more congestion than the town has experienced before. Thank you for letting me address you.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay. Okay.
Rose, do you have anybody else signed up?
Yes, Jerry Gamble.
Mr. Gamble?
Good evening. My name is Jerry Gamble, 1901 Hillendale Road in Durham. I'm actually the real estate broker for Danny Frankel that just spoke and the Generations family. They developed that land, 34 acres on Products Road, as Danny said. They built Products Road, they built stormwater ponds, they added sidewalks, all to DOT standards and in cooperation with the town of Fuquay. The primary concern we've got is developing those commercial lots. We have businesses that are interested in going there. The timeline that DOT mentioned is a big concern because businesses can't wait till November or 2029 to make decisions. So I'm afraid we're going to lose a lot of opportunity for creation of tax base on these lots, and the family spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on this. So we would ask your consideration to choose an alternate other than alternate 3. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Rose, do you have anybody else signed up?
Yes, we do. John Adcock.
Johnny, if you're this part or for the public hearing part later?
I was going to ask, Mayor, item 6A, is that going to be a hearing tonight? Because if it is, I'll speak at that agenda item.
Let's continue.
Okay.
Continued item. Rose, we did not close that public hearing last time, did we?
I don't think so.
Yeah. That's right. Rose, do you have anybody else?
Yes, we do. Lindsay Frost.
Ms. Frost?
Can you hear me? My name is Lindsay Frost. I live at 931 Judd Parkway, Southeast. That's right there at, as you can see, the construction that's getting ready to start. That's one of the agenda items that's going on tonight. I just want you to stop and think for a minute before you decide and vote on this, because we live right next to this roadway. I know it's a public roadway. You can't deny access to it. But that roadway is going to go right next to our house. The townhomes down the road, you know, they don't have access to Judd Parkway because you're trying to keep entrances onto Judd Parkway because Judd Parkway is congested. That's another thing, you know, the intersection. So I'm just asking that you go back and look at the plans maybe, see if there's an alternate. Like I said, I know you can't legally deny right to property, but I just want you to think, because, you know, that's right there. It's going to be right there in my backyard. I know there's a 10-foot buffer, I think, in the plans, but, you know, I have a 6-year-old son. My 6-year-old son likes to play baseball, and up till now, he's been able to hit the baseball, and he can just walk in the woods, but there's no woods now, you know, just like there's no spot for the deer that were back there, you know, and the birds and the squirrels and everything else. And I know it seems silly, but, you know, Judd Parkway has a lot of development going on. I don't see how bringing a roadway or those townhomes in there is going to help us. And just, you know, it's a lot of construction right there at our house, too. I know we're going to be the biggest ones affected because it's right there in the corner. And then the sidewalks coming in, like I said, from the intersection coming in. That's another thing, too. But it's just the road right next to a house. I know any of y'all would be, you know, upset if, you know, you've lived here like my boyfriend has for 17 years and all of a sudden you're going to have a road come there that was developed when Phelps Point was developed in 1999. Originally, that road right there was going to go beside the house and then it would connect across the road too. But the developer is only going to do the road right here to his side because that's the beneficial part for him, to get access to the townhomes and people can get in and out that way. I just think that that kind of adds to Judd Parkway's problems already. Yes, the intersection's going to help, but I already see people sit there and turn around at Phillips Point, to cut traffic, or they see the roadways backed up. They stop and they, you know, cut in and go back the other way and find an alternate. I just think that roadway right there is not going to help anybody. But thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you for your comments. Rose, you have anybody else signed up?
Chad Gaskins.
Mr. Gaskins?
Hey, Mayor, how you doing tonight? Thanks for giving me the time to speak. Live at 931 South Judd Parkway, Southeast, Fuquay-Varina. I purchased it when I was 23 years old to try to get ahead in life a little bit. This development, as she just spoke of, we're going to have a roadway come in right next to my house. I have a 6-year-old son that is going to be impacted by it, and also people cutting through the roadway to bypass the stoplight, I feel like is going to become, you know, not beneficial to the people's kids in the neighborhood also. The section that we live in, they're saying they're needing to widen the road at Judd Parkway and 401 to stop the bleeding from the backup on Judd Parkway. Well, as they had spoken, we are bringing in another road, and this road is just going to cut the wound deeper, I feel like, and cause more of a problem to this intersection. Less than 200 yards down the way, we have Phelps Point's entrance. I understand the point of development. I've been in electrical construction all my life, and I understand the point of development and everything, but the factor of we could bring in that just by bringing in the entrance of Phelps Point and having them come through and enter into these townhomes there would be much more beneficial than having another roadway enter. We had the townhomes going down the hill of Judd Parkway. That did not allow them to come in. I understand we need 2 road entryways. They had Andrew Road right there that they were allowed to enter in off of there, but we also have Phelps Point. So less than 200 yards away, we're going to bring another intersection in. And like she had said, it's right next to our house. And then they're talking to take frontage of our yard away from that also in order to widen the road. So I just don't see the need in having another roadway come in where we already have problems. And my girlfriend, she almost got killed turning into the driveway. She got hit. I've watched numerous numerous wrecks at this intersection over the 17 years of me living here. And I'll be 40 come January, and now this is just, it's going to decrease my value of land, and I moved to Fuquay from Raleigh, where my parents live, in order to move towards the country. Understanding development is a thing, and it's going to happen. But the fact of worsening the roadway that is already bad at this point in time, as y'all know, of needing to widen the road for the intersection for people being able to progress down to 401 and come into town, this is just going to cause more trouble at that intersection, bringing a new roadway in. And this roadway was designed in '99, as Matthew said earlier today, that this was a bad thing it was an old intersection and the engineering was not up to date at that point. And this is just bringing more, if we need to fix the engineering that was at that point then, and these roadways that were brought across the Judd Parkway was engineered back then at that time.
I do understand your concerns. Your 3 minutes are up, though, so actually please
Yes,
wrap
sir.
that thought up.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Rose, do you have anybody else signed up?
There are no more.
Scott, do you have anybody signed up virtually?
Yes, sir. We have one hand raised. Julie, please unmute your mic.
Julie, go ahead and speak.
Hi, I'm Julie Salkind. I'm one of Danny's partners in the 34 acres between Products Road and next to Products Road. And I just wanted to amplify what Danny said from the point of view of where a road should go. If alternative 3 were chosen, that road would go in the middle of Fuquay-Varina. It would cut off part of the residences from other residences. And as we've learned from some of the town planning experiences from the 50s, where highways were built through the middle of cities, they split neighborhoods. They make the communities on the other side of the road feel less a part of the community. And so it makes sense from a public policy point of view to run on the road on the far side of Smith Farms and include them in the community. And in addition, we have in the last year gotten tremendous interest in commercial development on our property, so that we can have, if we could talk to these people who are afraid to make offers right now, we could have child care centers, healthcare centers in our property. Right now, we have a contingent contract with a healthcare provider and interest from another one. So we can provide to the community a walkable commercial center, which would serve the community of Fuquay much better than a divisive road going right through the middle of it. So I think, from the point of view of what would unite Fuquay, this ought to be the consideration. The second thing is that by providing that second road on the outside as alternative 1 or 2, there's a much better chance that traffic won't stack up at Sunset Lake because it's further away from that intersection. So I know you haven't done the traffic studies haven't been completely done, but to me that just makes sense. So anyway, thank you for hearing me out. I'll be happy to talk to you some more about this.
Thank you for your comments. Scott, do you have anybody else signed up?
No, sir. No more hands are raised.
Okay, addressing some of these comments that were made during public comment period. First, speaking of Products Road, first subject, we heard DOT here earlier tonight making presentations in regards to that. DOT will make the final decision on that. Can Fuquay-Varina ultimately say if they like or dislike a path? Sure, but it doesn't mean it changes anything necessarily. So for you to say that for Fuquay-Varina to make a decision right now, I myself, nor this board, is ready to make a decision until we have all the facts in hand on this project right here. I do understand the impacts of your property, just like the other paths impact other property owners who have the same kind of concerns with them, with their investments. And so I am not leaning toward any one of the 3 paths saying that one is, am I choosing at this time to have all the facts? At that point in time, once we have all the facts in hand and our staff and DOTs had conversations and a presentation will be made to this board at this time, and then board members, I think, will ultimately make a vote at that time on which path they support, or we're just one of many, many bodies that will make an opinion on that. But in the day, DOT and federal funding is what will make the decision at that time, and we will weigh in at that point in time. Second item that was brought up for discussion tonight by the lady and gentleman in the back in regard to Judd Parkway development. You mentioned the intersection that is adjacent to that, and it sounds like you are aware of the intersection improvements that are coming to that. I heard you mention that. I was going to bring that up if you had not been. That will be on our agenda later tonight to approve intersection improvements. You heard me speak about that in regards to DOT earlier. This project has been zoned originally as, and I can't say how far back it's been zoned this way, but the zoning was changed to a downgrade zoning, meaning less dense zoning by this board about a year or two ago. Previously before that, it was high density, meaning there would have been a whole lot more units there, a whole lot more apartments could have gone there, a variety of things by right could have gone there. And so that property would have been a more units, more traffic, more connection than what is there right now. In regards, what's on the agenda later tonight is a preliminary subdivision approval, which what this board does is the board has public hearings in regard to zoning, and at a zoning time, that's when we can put more or less restrictions if the developer or petitioner volunteers them at that time. When it gets to this point, as long as it meets all of state laws, federal laws, and town laws and ordinance and guidelines, then the board gets a recommendation of approval, and there's no reason something can't be approved at that point. So that agenda item has not been brought up yet tonight, but I will have to tell you, I imagine with staff putting it on the agenda, it will be that the plans meet all ordinances there, and there will be recommended approval because it meets all the ordinances there. Public right-of-way is and I understand your concern. Anytime you have woods or nature area beside you, you lived there for 17 years, and so I understand your concerns of what's next door to you, but public right-of-way dictates access, normally speaking, and so these roads that have public right-of-ways or have stub-outs to them get connected. Our town has ordinances in place that has those roads get connected. The number of units in a subdivision dictate how many roads have to be connected, what entrances have to be connected, and I don't know until this topic comes up later tonight from the manager the exact number on this subdivision, but the unit count relative to some of the other neighborhoods that you've mentioned is not as high. It's less units within that neighborhood, which goes back to what I mentioned earlier about high density versus the medium density zoning that was changed on that. And so your concerns have been heard tonight. I don't want you to feel that they fall on deaf ears. However, when something meets zoning and guidelines, that is what I imagine discussion will be later with the board at that point, but we'll be taking that up here in a little bit. Thank y'all for coming. I think that's all the comments that were made during public comment period. So those have been, I've answered those. Next item on our agenda is going to be our first public hearings tonight. These are tabled. First item is going to be an item tabled from a previous public hearing. Public hearings are a time for the petitioner to present his or her request and for the public to give input and voice their favor or opposition to the request. If you wish to speak and are physically in attendance, please step forward to the podium one at a time. Provide your name and address on the registration log at the podium and clearly state your name and address for the public record. Following those speaking who are physically in attendance, the IT director will call on individuals that have virtually raised their hand via the Zoom app or by telephone. Those wishing to address the town board will be unmuted one at a time. Those speaking are asked to begin by stating your name and address for the public record. We'll ask all those addressing the town board to please limit your comments to 3 minutes in order that all who wish to speak may be heard in a timely manner. First item tabled from previous meeting, item 6A, 2040 Community Vision Land Use Plan, Town of Fuquay-Varina, CTA 2022-03. More information about this agenda item will be presented by who? Pam? Planning Director Davison.
So So I'm submitting the agenda abstract and supporting documents in the records of the town, but since we already presented those once before, I'm just going to give you kind of a high-level summary. Save us all some time and energy here. So we are really excited about presenting this updated land use plan to you. Let me just tell you some of the highlights. So this is kind of our official guide and vision for the future. It's used to set public policy. It's used as a guide in rezoning decisions. And it builds upon the one we had. The established plan we had was awesome, and we've been using that for years. But we have, we always have an opportunity to be better, and that's what this plan really, we hope, will serve. This plan also, one really special item about it, too, is that it really speaks to the land development ordinance, and they speak back and forth together. So while you can have visions and goals, it's when you really have those tools to apply them that it makes a lot of sense. So a couple of the items that they came up with when they were our consultant was doing the study was, one is that we need a better ratio of residential to non-residential uses. Everybody knows we've had a boost of residential development here, and we want to make sure we keep that balance so everybody who's moving here has a place to put their kids in childcare and work and go to grocery stores and visit doctors and all the things that we want to do for a well-rounded community. We also want to provide quality choices in housing. Lots of we want to see multi-generational options here, options for different price ranges, for different stages of life. We want to really refine our activity centers, our form-based housing. We've had about 10 projects now coming through the line in some form of either construction or development, and we've learned a lot about our form-based mixed development housing. And so we have some really exciting kind of updates to refine those and really make sure that we're getting what our vision for those is. So here's our beautiful map. We have a lot of really cool new colors. It's easier to read. We have simplified a few things. We've merged a few things together just to make it kind of overall more defined. Some of those items are industrial. We used to have it broken down into light industrial, heavy industrial. On the land use plan now, it's industrial. We've combined some of our single-family neighborhood. We used to have different sized lots in there. So overall, it's very similar. A lot of the categories have not changed at all. Our downtown categories, our TCR category, our suburban commercial, our neighborhood commercial, those are all exactly the way they were before. So there's a lot of similarities. We've taken a lot of the things that were working just fine and kept them, and then we've refined the ones that we thought needed a little more definition or even to simplify them. So one of the things we have really dug down into is how the two ordinances, the land use plan and the land development ordinance, work together. And there were a lot of goals and visions written in the both original documents that talked about we're looking for housing variety, and that's where it stopped. And so that's a nice lofty goal, and we all want to meet that, but how do we do that? And so the tools in this document now really are going to assist the developers, the landowners, the staff, with seeing that. So what we've done is we've actually defined what different types of housing are. We have pictures, we have descriptions. So there's no doubt these various different categories. And the neat thing is we now reference these typologies in our land development ordinance. So instead of where the planned unit development used to have a goal of 2 types of housing, well, is that 2 different lot sizes? Is that 2 different entire types, like a townhouse to a single-family detached, or could you do a 5,000 square foot lot and a 7,000 square foot lot, right? Well, now it actually digs down and it tells you that you have to pick 2 categories, and that's what's going to be it. And then it goes further. The land development ordinance is going to dig further, and it's going to tell you what percentage of those 2. So you can't just do one lot of one and the rest, so we're going to have balance in those different housing types. So a couple extra enhancements we've added here is we've added some crosswalks. Those crosswalks are going to tie together the land use plan and the land development ordinance again. So it's not going to be a secret that staff is interpreting. It's going to be something that is out there and available to the public, to landowners, to developers, to the staff to use. So we're all talking the same language. We also have a building typology crosswalk. This can tell you what buildings are appropriate in which areas. actually added a priority investment area, maps and policies. So we've used some of the other priorities, like the capital investments and things like that are going on, our current infrastructure, and tied it all together and really defined those areas where the town is supporting development right now, and those areas that may be better for the future development, or at least if a developer's coming in, they can understand that they will be the ones that'll be providing that infrastructure and extending those utilities. We've also, one thing that we've heard from the public quite a bit during rezonings and things like that is compatibility. Is that if people, especially some of those in our ETJ, they're living on some large lot county subdivisions, are not used to having those woods taken down and lots of houses in there. And so this plan really works to creating some transitions to those areas that just feel right, to be good neighbors, to be good stewards of the land, things like that. And then we're also really pushing for continuous open space. Our open space subdivisions are being converted to planned unit developments. The standards are the same, transferring over, but the bonus with a planned unit development is they will come in with a master plan. So we will see right up front, they will be a little more developed, fully developed in the initial rezoning stages, and show that the 25% open space, we can start to create those transition buffers from development to development, saving those environmental features that we all find very valuable. So this is one of our crosswalks. This is showing, if you can see, the top end is going to be all the different uses. Down on the left side there, that is a list of all of our zoning districts that we're going to find in the land development ordinance. So this is a really clear, logical way that if you either looking at the existing zoning of a property or the future land use of a property, can really guide you to what the vision is for that piece of property. Now again, a really important thing to take out of this is the land use plan is if and when you want to develop that property. It is not a requirement that needs to change, and it is not something that the town is pushing for change. So any existing farmland or historical property that a family owns stays exactly what it is today, whatever it's zoned today. Most of them are residential agricultural land. And they may continue to farm that land, live on that land, expand that land under the parameters of the residential agricultural zoning district for as long as they want to, regardless of what the land use plan designates. The land use plan only comes into account if and when they choose to develop sometime in the future. It gives us all guidance as to what we think the highest and best use of that property would be. This again is a building typology, so it starts to give us the forms of the buildings, the type of development that are appropriate in the different classifications. And this is the non-residential version, the same thing. So our public input and outreach, we did post documents as of April 1st on Let's Talk FV. We posted them onto social media, as well as the town's website. Because we were doing a combination and we were pulling through the land development ordinance along with the LUP, we put them both out there for people to see. Over 1,800 individuals viewed the project on Let's Talk FV. 800 plus actually downloaded one of the documents, either the map or the LUP document or the LDO. And we had about 40 individuals comment, and those comments were included in the materials. Town board, town management, and staff have also met with individual stakeholders and residents. We have talked with groups like the Home Builders Association. We've also met with individual residents who had concerns. We've reached out specifically since our last meeting and followed up with anybody who had made comments to us ahead of time, answered any of their questions, and tried to explain the process. And that is everything I have. So I'm available for any questions if you have them.
Any board members have any questions before we continue the public hearing?
I have a question.
Commissioner Harris?
In the, I think in your letter, in the agenda, your cover letter, you mentioned, if I'm not mistaken, you mentioned about the voluntary agricultural districts. And since the future land use map will be sort of policy or set sort of a concept, I did not see on your map anything that identified those voluntary agricultural districts.
Sure.
Can you talk about that?
I sure can. So I think an important distinction is those voluntary agricultural districts are current use of the land by families who have voluntarily chosen to be part of the Wake County program. And those can come and go, but that is publicly available information where those agricultural districts are. And that was one of the concerns we had were from some of the landowners who have properties that are in that voluntary program at this point. We did talk to our IT department, and while that is not necessarily appropriate for a future land use map, because that information is publicly available, we can add that to our GIS maps, just like we do. We have historical districts also. So that is something that, as we go and update these maps for the future land use plan on the GIS system, we can also put those agricultural districts for information onto the GIS maps, so they'll be available for the public to see and developers to see and realize where those voluntary districts are. Again, those properties come in and out of that, so that is something that will be updated as appropriate as it's available from Wake County.
Oh, so properties come in and out based on designation from Wake County? I know there's an application process.
Right. It's a voluntary program that
Yes.
people opt into, right? So we will do our best. We will update them periodically. But again, that's something that we can add as information to our GIS maps and will be available to the public to see.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Harrison. Board members have any questions before we continue the public hearing? Okay. The hearing is now continued. Does anyone attending in person wish to speak in favor of the land use plan amendment? Rose, do you have anybody signed up?
Possibly.
The chief?
Mr. Paul Coon? I'm here for 6 feet. Okay.
No, all right. Does anyone here attending in person wish to speak in opposition to the land use plan amendment?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the board.
Hey,
My name is
John.
John Adcock, the Adcock Law Firm located at 202 East Academy Street in Fuquay-Varina. Going back to December of last year, I have raised objections before the town staff, the planning board, and this board to the lack of due process involving the adoption of the amendments to the land use plan and the land development ordinance. The objections I have raised are to the process, not to the need to amend the policies. The LDO and LUP amendments, if adopted in current forms, will represent a dramatic change in the land use policies and regulations of the town. To demonstrate the dramatic change, I refer you to Bingle Town Center, a mixed-use project that by all appearances has received strong support from the town. Bingle Town Center does not meet the standards contained in the LDO amendments you have later this evening. The size of the project meets the standards of only one of the 3 amended form-based districts under the LDO. An evaluation of a project engineer with significant experience in Fuquay-Varina found that the project does not meet the proposed minimum allocation for non-residential uses and exceeds the proposed residential density requirements. Bingle Town Center offers one example of what I suggest may be many of an unintended consequence resulting from a lack of community involvement in the planning process regarding these amendments. While there has been an invitation for community involvement, the level of opportunity for the community to participate in the planning process has been insufficient when measured against the principal foundations of comprehensive planning. Amendments such as these that will have wide-ranging and significant impacts on the entire community require a thorough and comprehensive community engagement process that involves the town, key stakeholders, and members of the public. The process should include creative and diverse methods of public engagement and community visioning. In 2016 and 2017, I was a member of the steering committees that participated in the planning process for adopting the LUP and the LDO. The committees were made up of a diverse group of citizens, representatives from state and local government agencies, and a variety of community stakeholders. The process had a definitive schedule and agenda. The issues before the committees were addressed by a diverse group of voices and ideas. There were no such committees participating in the process that produced the amendments that you have before you. There was no such process that produced the amendments you have before you. The title of the Land Use Plan agenda item is the 2040 Community Vision Land Use Plan, and I emphasize the words community vision. The amendments before you are not a product of this community's vision because the process has not allowed for adequate community involvement. A land use plan and the implementing regulations are never perfect. That is why comprehensive planning is continuous. I ask that you withhold from taking action on these amendments and adopt a process that involves thorough and comprehensive community engagement. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Anybody else like to speak in opposition, attending in person, to the land use plan amendments? Scott, does anyone attending virtually wish to speak in favor of the land use plan amendment?
I see no hands raised.
Scott, does anyone attending virtually wish to speak in opposition to the land use plan amendment?
There are no hands raised.
The hearing is now closed. Any discussion by the board, questions for staff? There's no questions or no discussion. What is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve CTA 2022-03, an amendment to the 23rd Community Vision Land Use Plan, renamed 2040 Community Vision Land Use Plan, as presented and recommended by town management staff, as it improves upon the land use plan, is reasonable and in the best interest of the public for the reasons identified by management and staff.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Just like to make a comment, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Harris?
You know, I hear what Mr. Adcock said in regards to an inclusive process as far as a comprehensive plan that is so very important to our community. I think it's important for us to, in the future, to try to be as inclusive as possible. I know that in identifying the process as far as getting feedback, that it was indicated that stakeholders were involved, but I noticed that those stakeholders and the language indicated those were individual stakeholders. I think that there is a certain power when we get a group of citizens together in regards to discussing any kind of issue that impacts our community. I think that that information is very important, and I hope that in the future we would take it to heart when we try to do something such as a large project like this, because oftentimes I can see that the desire to want to continue to manage growth and to direct the future of our community may outweigh the process of having people to have a voice. I think it's so important that in the future that when we take on projects like this, that we do step back and we take time to solicit input, because this is going to impact us and our future. Notwithstanding, I think there's so many good things about this plan. When I look at what the plan is in regards to creating character and shaping the future of our community, I think this plan hits on those kinds of things. But at the same time, I'm very concerned that the process and our future processes would be more inclusive, and that we would take the steps to incorporate a wider variety of stakeholders as a group, not necessarily just individually, because I think that something gets lost in that process. And I thank Mr. Adcock for your comments. Those are my comments, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to support the plan, but I just wanted to make those comments.
Commissioner Harris. Thank you for your comments, Commissioner Harris. Anybody else have any comments?
Well, I would just like to thank this board for giving me the opportunity to more fully consider this and review the proposed 2040 Community Vision Land Use Plan and the Land Development Ordinance Amendment. I feel that there's a difference between, we are not doing away with the 2035 plan. Right. I mean, this was an update. So how do you decide how much of the process needs to be, bringing what we did to begin with? I mean, we did that 5 years ago, and this was supposed to be an update. So I don't know. I like the idea that people can comment on it and weigh in on it, and talking to different stakeholders. I think that's really important too, but I think there's a difference in an update and in the establishment of one of those documents had not been reviewed since 2006. So that was just a totally new process and a new document, and this was an update. So I think it's difficult to determine how extensive the process needs to be in an update. It's hard to say. So I'm comfortable. The thing that I like about this, what these two things do, is the consideration of them together, because like many of you, I participated in both of those projects in 2016 and 17, and I was really excited about some new, innovative visions that were presented as possibilities with the land use plan, and those things that I was most excited about never emerged. And I think I think perhaps part of that was that we treated those two projects separately and didn't look at them together. So I like that we are looking at the land development ordinance amendment and the land use plan together this time. And I think we do have some really exciting options for addressing some of the concerns that have been brought forward by our citizens over these years that we've been working with the implementation of the 2035 plan, like the balance between commercial and residential. Excuse me. I did not get to use this time since that we'd been given as I had hoped to, because I spent 4 weeks of it battling COVID and flu at the same time. So excuse me, but I do feel that I'm grateful for the opportunity to have had this extra time to really consider and review both of these plans and read all of the comments that have been made. I don't think this plan is perfect, because I don't think you can have a perfect plan, but I like enough of it that I am certainly going to vote in support of it tonight, and I look forward to its implementation when we can see how this works and if it does really bring about some of the changes that we hope will address the concerns that the public has brought to us in terms of density, in terms of as I said, the commercial and residential balance, and the types of housing available for people. I think there are lots of exciting things here, and I do. I would like to see more attention paid to the value of historic properties, homes, businesses, and farms in our area, and the part they have played in contributing to the character and culture of our area. So I'd like to see a little bit more of that, but I think this is a really exciting plan, and I am going to support it.
Any other further comments? We'll call to question. Okay, we have motion and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is items tabled from previous meetings. Land Development Ordinance Amendment 2040 Community Vision Land Use Plan, Town of Fuquay-Varina, CTA 2022-04, Amendment number 19. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Planning Director Davison. Ma'am.
Thank you. I am submitting the agenda abstract and supporting documents into the records for the town. Town staff and the community have gained significant experience using the Land Development Ordinance since its adoption in December of 2016. As a result, this amendment seeks to utilize that experience in the form of clarifications and technical corrections to the LDO's language. In addition, this amendment seeks to update the LDO to bring it into conformity with the recommendations made by the newly updated 2040 Community Vision Land Use Plan. The proposed changes are as follows. Section 1, Article A. Language has been added to this article to allow for development flexibility of town-owned buildings and properties. Section 2, Article C. An update to terminology. Neighborhood mixed use, NMU, urban mixed use, UMU, are moving to commercial mixed use, CMU, and employment mixed use, EMU. The land use plan establishes new labels for 2 of the 3 form-based districts to better describe their development effects. This terminology update also has been made in Articles E, F, G, J, L, M, N, O, P, Q, S, and Appendix B. Section 3, Article D. The zoning district descriptions have been updated for the residential agricultural, residential low density, residential mixed density, residential high density, corridor commercial, general commercial, research light industrial, and heavy industrial zoning districts to align them with the changes proposed in the LUP. The Highway Corridor Overlay District has been established to secure the main thoroughfares in town for the most appropriate commercial and non-residential uses. Section 4, Article E. The zoning district descriptions have been updated for the town residential, RMU, NMU, and UMU to align them with the changes in the LUP. Section 5, Article F. An update to terminology for zoning districts, NMU, UMU to CMU and EMU. The permitted use table has been updated to address the amendments to the development project section and the form-based sections. In Attachment A, an exception has been added to the place of worship development standards that will allow for certain expansions of use within the Highway Corridor Overlay District. The development type mixed-use development has been removed as a development option. Staff finds the variety of other mixed-use development options offered in the LDO are comprehensive, and mixed-use development, as outlined in Article F, does not produce the best or most creative mixed-use development opportunities. And updates to the multifamily section include the separation requirement section has been clarified for ease of use, and language regarding building facade requirements has been added to the general standards for multifamily development. The apartment development type has been amended to include a purpose and intent section as well as a more thorough open space requirement. Townhouse development has been moved from the single-family development type section to the multifamily development type section. This brings the development type in line with the updates of the LUP. Previously, townhome development was on its own section, but now it's a part of multifamily. The open space development section has been removed entirely, and the open space development type has been incorporated into the planned unit development section to align the LDO with recommendations made in the LUP update. The section on townhouses, detached, has been renamed row house and revamped to align with recommendations made in the LUP update. A reference in the zero lot line development section has been updated to refer to a more appropriate section regarding common green areas. A reference to open space development has been removed from the parks and open space section, as open space developments have been removed as a development option. In Section 6, Article G, updates have been made to the dimensions and setbacks table to align with updates elsewhere within the LDO Attachment B. A reference to open space developments has been removed from the general standards for setbacks section, as open space development have been removed as a development option. In Section 7, Article H, a reference to the traditional mixed-use development has been removed as it's no longer a development option. Section 8, Article I, references to open space developments within this article have been removed and replaced with references to planned unit developments. Section 9, Article J, row house, has been added to the list of development types for which the recreation fee in lieu is applicable. The number for calculation of recreation dedication or fee in lieu has been amended to 1/20th of an acre from 1/30th of an acre. The reference for this fee has also been updated. Language regarding privately owned parks, recreational, open space, or greenway areas has been revamped to refer to common green areas. The dates for which permit choice may be applicable have been updated to align with this amendment. Row house has been added to an exemption in the mail kiosk section. Subdivisions under 30 lots may be exempted from this parking requirement. Language has been added to the construction guarantees section that provides an opportunity for non-residential site plans to provide a fee in lieu, as major subdivisions currently do. Additionally, language has been amended to shift town board approval of the request to the construction drawing stage from the preliminary plans to better align with the engineering of the development. Section 10, Article L, an update to terminology and MU and UMU to CMU and EMU. Section 11, Article M. References to open space developments within this article have been removed and replaced with references to planned unit developments. Language has been added to the section on public utility easements that allows homeowners associations to grant easements through common areas owned by the HOA without the joinder of lot owners. Removal of the year on a reference to the 2035 Community Vision Land Use Plan, and a reference to the traditional mixed-use development has been removed as it is no longer a development option. In Section 12, Article N, language has been added to provide guidance for residential off-street parking and garages. Section 13, Article O, a reference to plantings required for mixed-use developments has been removed as traditional mixed-use developments are no longer a development option. A reference to foundation planting on single-family homes has been removed. Updates to the perimeter buffer requirements for form-based mixed-use developments have been made to clarify that perimeter buffers are required at the project boundary. Updates have been made to clarify that no lots within a subdivision shall contain any required buffer or open space. The use types list has been updated to include the updated form-based districts and to rearrange the intensities of some single-family and multifamily uses. Language has been added to the street tree buffer section that states that street tree buffers may be included on lots and that street trees must be continued across non-residential and open space lots. In Section 14, Article P, a reference to the traditional mixed-use development has been removed as it's no longer a development option. A reference to a bicycle master plan has been removed. The town applied for funding around completion of the 2017 LDO, but funding was not awarded and this plan isn't in existence. Section 15, Article Q, a reference to the traditional mixed-use development has been removed as it's no longer a development option, and references to open space developments within this article have been removed and replaced with references to planned unit developments. The exemption for townhouses has been removed from site plan components as townhouses are now considered multifamily. A requirement for a neighborhood meeting has been added to special use permits, and clarification has been added to townhouse development section that the preliminary and construction drawings shall be submitted in accordance with major plat standards. In Section 16, Article S, all outmoded definitions related to the newly updated Appendix B have been removed or altered to fit the new language. References to the traditional mixed-use development have been removed. This is no longer a development option. The multifamily definition has been clarified to include townhouses. The definition for non-residential development has also been clarified. The subdivision and minor subdivision definitions have been edited to exclude the specifics that are already outlined in the respective articles to avoid redundancy. And the townhouse and townhouse development definitions have been clarified for their new applications. In Section 17, Appendix B, this section has been entirely rewritten in response to recommendations from the 2040 Community Vision Land Use Plan. Now called residential mixed use, commercial mixed use, and employment mixed use, the three mixed-use form-based districts now conform to the updated LUP, and the appendix is now more user-friendly. These three form-based districts now respond to the LUP's newly established Neighborhood Activity Center, Community Activity Center, and Regional Employment Center classifications. Together, the LDO and LUP provide framework for vibrant, creative mixed-use developments as well as centers of commerce and lifestyle. Section 18, Appendix C. Language has been added to this appendix to state that TCR zoning district is also applicable to some areas immediately outside Judd Parkway. Section 19, Appendix D. The PUD section has been revamped to become a more flexible and applicable zoning district. Standards have been outlined that once were not, allowing for greater ease of use. The PUD project sizes have been expanded, and the delineation of residential versus non-residential projects has been expanded. The table, PUD zoning district, building and setback and separation, has been revamped to have greater building type flexibility. Standards have been added to the open space section to align with other open space development and encourage a higher quality open space product. In Section 20, Appendix E, references to open space developments within this article have been removed and replaced with references to plan unit developments. Management and staff recommend approval of the proposed Town Code amendment. It is reasonable and in the public's best interest as it improves upon the Land Development Ordinance's intent to modernize, provides sustainability, and allows for ease of use and enforcement, specifically concerning the town's current development standards. As additional information, staff requested tabling of this item at the April 18th, 2022 Planning Board to the May 16th, 2022 Planning Board meeting in order to provide more time to reflect on public comments and goals for the Land Development Ordinance. Several adjustments were made to the proposed amendment in response to feedback received. The revisions were incorporated into the amendment presented to the Planning Board on May 16th, 2022. At the May 16th, 2022 regular meeting, the Planning Board unanimously voted to recommend approval. At the June 6, 2022 regular meeting, the Town Board voted to open the public hearing and table consideration of the request for more time to consider the proposal. Since June 6, 2022, public and stakeholder group members who have commented or presented concerns regarding this proposal have been contacted by Town Management and Planning staff. The draft 2040 Land Use Plan and LDO amendments are still available on Let's Talk FE for public comment, but no additional comments were received on this platform between June 6, 2022 and July 8, 2022. No changes or revisions have been made to the proposed ordinance since the June 6, 2022 Town Board meeting. So the recommendation tonight is to approve CTA 2022-04, an amendment to the Land Development Ordinance, as it is reasonable and in the best interest of the public for the reasons identified by management and staff. So I know it's a lot, and I am available to answer any questions if you need.
Thank you, ma'am. Any board members have any questions at this time for staff? Okay. Thank you. The hearing is now open. Does anyone attending in person wish to speak in favor of the Land Development Ordinance Amendment? Does anyone attending in person wish to speak in opposition to the Land Development Ordinance Amendment? Please come forward.
I'm Paul Kane. I'm with the Home Builders Association for Raleigh and Wake County. Address is 5580 Centerview Drive in Raleigh, North Carolina, 27606. The association, even though it has Raleigh in the name, represents all of Wake County, including builders that build and develop in Fuquay-Varina. And we have really been trying to dig into this LDO because you've got the land use plan, the comprehensive plan. That's the concepts, that's the ideas, that's kind of the pretty pictures. But the LDO is where the rubber meets the road. This is the governing document as to how this town's going to develop. And I've been involved in as a professional in real estate and construction for 30 years, and I've never seen an LDO try to get pushed through so quickly. There's a reason these things take time. There's a reason that typically comprehensive plans are voted on, and then you start work on the LDO, because the LDO is complex, it's technical. Just sitting here listening to a summary of it took 15 minutes. It's hard stuff. We've got engineers, we've got attorneys, we've got builders, and we've been trying to figure this thing out. This is a 138-page amendment document that's amending a 930-page existing LDO. That's hard. And sometimes a section is moved, and when it shows up in the new area, it's all highlighted as if it's new, but it's not new, it's just moved. But you don't know that unless you go and compare it to the 930-page document. So it's not enough to just sit and read 138 pages and say, I got it all figured out. What I'm saying is, Mr. Adcock's comments about community involvement and discussion and engagement by industry professionals is important, and it's real. The Home Builders Association did have some discussions about the land use plan, and at the time, we weren't even really thinking LDO, because typically LDOs don't come until later. We were at a Triangle Community Coalition on May 11th, and we're told that this was going to be presented to the Planning Board the following week, and there was a scramble to get us a copy of the amended LDO at that time. Less than a month later, it was before this board for discussion, and that got pushed to now. This is coming during holiday times, during COVID time, yours truly included on the COVID. We need more time to work through this. In a letter that Suzanne Harris of my office sent to members of this commission on June 30th, we pointed out just 4 things, technical things, that needed to be evaluated. One of them is that there's a mismatch between lot dimensions and allowable densities. For example, in an area that said that you could have 6 units per acre density, but then another part of it said that you have to have 70-foot wide minimum lot width. Well, it's difficult, economically infeasible to do that. So at this point, the 6 units per acre isn't really 6 units per acre anymore, because with 70-foot lot widths, you can't get 6 units per acre. Same thing can be said for 16 units per acre with minimum lot widths of 60. These are things that need to be untangled. It's technical stuff. Also, I think needs to be evaluated in terms of the economics of these, where you've got perimeter lots where the lines don't match, or the lot sizes don't match. And in order to get around that, you'd have to put in, I think, as a 50 to 70-foot buffer. That's a lot of land that can't be developed, therefore making everything around it more expensive. We'd like to consider maybe 25 to 35 buffer instead of 70 or 50 to 75. Again, these are things that we just need to sit down and work out, but we can't do it with the time we've had. There's some other examples that were in the letter that Ms. Harris sent you. She'd be here today herself, but she's on vacation. It's just that time of year. Although knowing her as I do, I'm sure she's listening in right now. So I see that my time's up, and I want to be respectful of that. I feel like I've been running through this whole thing. So we would just respectfully ask that even though the plan has been passed tonight, that more time be given to this LDO and seek more engagement with community groups and with us and with everybody else. And let's make sure that where the rubber meets the road is the right way and that it's going to work for everybody involved. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Paul. Does anyone attending in person else wish to speak in opposition to the Land Development Ordinance Amendment? John?
Mr. Mayor, members of the board, John Adcock, 202 East Academy Street. I, again, republished my concerns about the process that I mentioned earlier. One thing that I believe truly is community engagement is a two-way street. It's important for the local government to disperse information to the community, but it's vitally important for the community to give information back to the local government. And I believe that aspect of this process has not been there. We've had information coming from the local government, but there's been very little or there's not been a structure allowed or prepared or provided where information could be funneled back to the local government in a fashion that you can work through these details, as Mr. Kane mentioned. But one issue I'm going to address, and I'll be respectful of the time because I know you guys have got a long meeting. This is a critically important issue. We've got folks that have applied for zoning permits or zoning applications in this town. One in particular is over a year now. 12 months ago, applied for form-based rezoning in Fuquay-Varina. Paid the fee, came to town hall, submitted an application, revised the application based on the input from the town staff, and after 6 months and spending close to $100,000 on that process, received information from the staff that a favorable recommendation was going to be provided to the planning board and this board for approval. And then with a matter of days, that was withdrawn. This is just unfair. It's not right. It's unjust. I mean, these folks they came in town hall, they paid the fee, and they submitted an application that meets the standards of the code in place when they applied. And then they were asked to stand down for an indefinite period of time. There was no schedule provided to these rezoning applicants. It was just said you can either withdraw your application or you can just stand down and let this thing play out or revise. And they didn't know what to revise to because as of tonight, you're going to approve the ordinance that they would need to meet. This is a year ago. This is 12 months ago. And it's not right. And the town continually refers to the development community as their partners. Is this how you're going to treat a partner when they come into this facility and pay the fee and do what they're supposed to do, meet the standards, and then they're told to stand down for an indefinite period of time? And when you pass this tonight, if you pass it, the whole project that they've worked on is gone. It's over. I've submitted to you via email a proposed amendment to deal with this. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I think it's something that you need to look at. If you're going to adopt this, which I still believe that you should go back and revisit the process, but if this is what you're going to do, you need to address these projects that were put in the pipeline and did everything they were supposed to do and met the standards that were put in front of them, and then asked to stand down based on standards that they have no knowledge of and were not presented and are not going to be approved until a year later. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Does anyone else attending in person wish to speak in opposition to the Land Development Ordinance Amendment? Scott, does anyone attending virtually wish to speak in favor of the Land Development Ordinance Amendment?
There are no hands raised.
Scott, does anyone attending virtually wish to speak in opposition to the Land Development Ordinance Amendment?
No, sir, no hands are raised.
The hearing is now closed. Any questions or discussion by the board?
I just have a question. How malleable, how flexible is it if this is approved? I mean, how can it be amended? Can we massage it to change it to address concerns?
My opinion on, I can answer my opinion on the document and then let management say their point on that is, we have done, here, this one is amendment number 19, done lots of amendments, and in my opinion, it's a fluid document that at any point can be, continued to be tweaked, that if it realizes there's an area that's swung too far in one direction or the other, that this board will be looking for another amendment, and I don't believe this will be the last and final amendment. Management, what's your comment in regards to this on the fluidity of this document and changes that can be made?
I think you made the fair and exact assessment, Mayor. We've had multiple amendments to the Land Development Ordinance, since 2016, and by all accounts, I think it's reasonable to expect that moving forward in time, we would have amendments again if we find that there are opportunities to better the development ordinances of the town. And, we do find those from time to time in working with developers and working with citizens and private property owners. We find that where, by making a tweak here or correction there's an opportunity to improve or better upon our ordinances. And so, I don't see this being the end-all, be-all for the land development ordinance in the town of Fuquay-Varina, for the remainder of time. I think the opportunity to work these regulations and to work with them married with the land use plan gives us an opportunity to demonstrate that they can achieve the vision for future development of the community that the town board just recently adopted.
Any other questions or comments from board members?
I guess I have a question, Mr. Mayor. I guess from the comments from the Home Builders Association, did that change, or did that, what was presented, which I've read comments on both sides, did that change anything in the consideration of thought process from, management, which I already know the question, but, I like to put stuff out in the public for public knowledge.
In large part, it did not. To be quite frankly and honest with you, the most recent letter that we received from the Home Builders Association, I understand the point of view, where they're coming from in terms of density and more developable property. That goes counter to a lot of what we heard from members of our own community, our citizens, and people who live in our own property or live in our planning jurisdiction. I know that in terms of one particular area, with perhaps a discrepancy with lot widths or whatnot, that was addressed or has been addressed. I think that was point 1 in the letter that was sent. That was never intended to be that way, and so it was since corrected in the form that you have in front of you this evening. But in terms of some of the other points that were made, it did not change our recommendation.
So would that be a good example, management, that if, let's say that it had been passed and that change had not been caught, and then it was brought in the future with staff and meetings with development said, hey, this doesn't work, these numbers at all.
Yeah,
we bring an amendment back.
Technical correction amendments are done frequently. It's not that it's a substantive change in policy or direction. It's an error in a table. Pam, we recognize that. We had already recognized that, in fact, and had made that change before the letter even came. And so that was, like I said, addressed. But in terms of some of the other points on creating opportunities for greater density and opportunities for more developable property, again, it just goes counter to many of the public feedback that we've received over the last year and more than a year as to what the direction the community would like to see this board and this town go in.
Also, I know a citizen spoke, I think maybe last week or something, about the buffers when it comes to our waterways. I know one had talked about that. I don't. Can you speak a little bit more to that? When it goes into the Cape Fear River, I know I got an email. I got to go back and look, but it was speaking towards that. So I might need to go back and read my email and ask some more questions. But I'll
I know
reach
there
out
were
to
some
you.
questions of another ordinance that had previously been adopted by the board, I believe. Is that correct, Pam?
So we did receive a public question about the river
Might be the
buffers.
same one, yeah.
Right. Matt Pulling, our engineering director, is now working with that individual, so that really doesn't have any influence on this document at this time.
And I guess the last thing is, can we speak to, the Attorney Adcock's question about the person who was in the pipeline, per se, the pipeline, and has been waiting for the year. You know, I'm all about public knowledge, so I'd rather just put out in the open.
We discussed that
Yes.
at the board level,
Yes.
publicly at a meeting, maybe back in February, that we had a few projects that were in the pipeline. Pam, you can speak to this, but my understanding is at no time did town staff ever tell a developer that we were going to make a positive recommendation. Is that correct?
So there were 3 projects that have been submitted for zoning applications. One of them, the Banks Farm PUD, they quickly kind of maneuvered, and that one has already been approved as a planned unit development. Another one of the applications, the other 2 applications were still in the review process with staff when we asked them to hit the pause button, so no one had ever made it through the review process and received staff recommendations to move forward. One of those also is now working with us and has submitted a revised application using the new standards, which we're really excited to bring to you hopefully in the near future. And the third one we haven't heard back from yet. They were still waiting to see what the new standards were going to be. So there were no projects that had received staff recommendation and were scheduled to move forward at that time. And like I said, the one that was probably the closest has already been approved.
Any further questions or discussion? Okay, what's the pleasure of the board? I entertain a motion.
I'll make the recommendation if I can find the language, Mr. Mayor. I've lost it on my computer here. I guess the best thing to do is say I would make a motion that we approve CTA 2022-04 Amendment 19 as presented and recommended by staff.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion and second. No further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, we typically are advised by legal counsel to include the language as it is reasonable in the best interest of the public for the reasons identified by management staff. If the Mayor Pro Tem would.
Mayor Pro Tem, do you accept those words?
I accept that wording as an amendment to my motion.
Second it.
Second.
Okay, motion second. No further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next public hearing, item 7A, Water and Wastewater System Development Fee Analysis Report and Fee Schedule Ordinance. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Public Utilities Director Wagner.
Good evening again, Mayor and Commissioners. I have item 7A. The purpose of this agenda item is to consider the adoption of the water and wastewater system development fee analysis prepared by Willdan Financial Services and consider adopting an ordinance amending fiscal year 2022-2023 fee schedule and reflect the amended revised water and wastewater system development fees. Willdan Financial Services recently conducted a water and wastewater system development fee study on behalf of the town pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes 162A, Article 8. The statute specifies that written analysis is to be performed to calculate system development fees based on prescribed criteria. To meet the requirement of the general statute, the town of Fuquay-Varina employed Willdan Financial Services as a professional financial consulting firm to complete the system development fee analysis. In its analysis dated March 22nd, 2022, Willdan calculated a maximum residential unit fee of $3,030 for water and $3,250 for wastewater. This calculation recommends a $1,030 increase to the water system development fee, bringing the total water system development fee to $3,030 from its current rate of $2,000, from its current fee of $2,000. No change was recommended for the sewer system development fee. Before considering adopting the professional analysis, House Bill 436 requires that local government units post the SDF analysis on its webpage for public review and comment for a minimum of 45 days. The analysis was posted on the town's website on May 11th, 2022, and no comments were received through the 45-day public posting period ending June 25th, 2022. After the period for posting expires, a public hearing required for adopting the system development fee analysis with any modifications or revisions is required. This public hearing was scheduled for today, July 11th, 2022. After which the town board may consider any potential modifications based on comments provided during the public hearing or adopt the analysis as presented. Therefore, management and staff recommend that the town board adopt the system development fee analysis prepared by Willdan Financial Services and the associated ordinance amending the fee schedule to reflect the town's updated system development fees as presented and recommended. This proposed system development fee increase is reflected in the town's fiscal year 2023 budget adopted June 6, 2023. There is a fiscal note attached to this. The water and wastewater system development fee analysis conducted by Willdan Financial Services recommends an increase of $1,030 to the 3/4 inch water line for residential dwelling units. This increase brings the current residential water system development fee from $2,000 to $3,030 per dwelling unit. No change was recommended to the sewer system development fee. The water system development fee increase is estimated to bring an additional $1.2 million in revenue annually to support the expansion of water utilities and infrastructure. System development fees are used to establish supplemental sources of funding for future capital projects. The implementation of system development fees helps mitigate existing customers' need to pay for system expansions entirely through their user rates. And the suggested recommendation would be to adopt the water and wastewater system development fee analysis and associated ordinance amending the fiscal year 2022-2023 fee schedule as presented and recommended. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll hold my questions or comments until after the public hearing. The hearing is now open. Does anyone attending in person wish to speak in favor of the water and wastewater system development fee analysis report and fee schedule ordinance? Does anyone attending in person wish to speak in opposition to the water and wastewater system development fee ordinance report and fee schedule ordinance? Scott, does anyone attending virtually wish to speak in favor of the water and wastewater system development fee analysis? Can't say that word right. Analysis report and fee schedule ordinance. Does anyone attending virtually wish to speak in opposition? Scott? Manager, we're going through, the hearing is now closed. A couple comments. Manager, we're going through a process to increase capacity on water and sewer facilities and extend new lines into development areas. I know we've discussed at budget time on a variety of ways these things were going to be paid for. And if my memory recalls correctly, that there is a plan that's been put together that follows General Assembly statutes that requires this analysis to be done and then splits the cost between rate users and new development. So this is not solely, you mentioned earlier about to affect the rate user's schedule, but also at the same time, the development's paying a portion and the user paying a portion.
That's correct.
Split between them right there.
That's correct.
On a prorated share right there. What kind of, this is any fee that's not been paid will be effective for, is that correct? Anything?
Correct.
Whether it's platted or not is whether the fee's been paid or not.
That's right.
Okay. And we discussed at budget time, Mr. Kane's not here anymore, he was here at budget time, talking about these fees going up. How does the water fee change from $2,000 to $3,000 compared to our surrounding competitive?
We're still one of the lowest, if not the lowest, in the county.
Okay.
And that is in the face of upwards to $250 million of capital improvements, water and wastewater, that we've identified in the next 10 years. As the town board knows, the community may well likely know, we're going through the process of a permitting process right now for a water plant expansion project with multiple partners that will be in excess of $100 million, likely more than that, $1 million for water capacity, and we're also looking at 2 sewer capacity projects. So it's not to say that these rates will be the rates from the system development side forever either. We'll continue to evaluate these rates every so many years. But as you mentioned, Mayor, the town board just approved the fiscal year 23 budget, which included a user rate increase for water and sewer for all current ratepayers, 9.9% on both sides, and that is projected to carry forward over the next several years again. And so,
which helps also with maintenance of the system. So I mentioned earlier about new expansion, but it's not just that; it's maintenance.
It's not. It's maintenance of an existing system as well as new expansion. All of that goes into the cost of system improvements, maintenance and or new. And there's substantial debt service as well as pay-go that's factored into those fees.
Okay, thank you. Any other board members have any comments or discussion about board members?
I think you did it when you asked the question about how does it compare to our neighboring towns, and I believe I heard you say we're still one of the lowest.
That's correct.
On the system development fees. That was my question, but you got it answered. Thank you.
Okay, no further discussions. What's the pleasure of the board? Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt the water and wastewater system development fee analysis and associated ordinance amending the fiscal year 2022-2023 fee schedule as presented and recommended.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any no further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next on our agenda, public hearing, item 7B, zoning map amendment, the Curry Engineering Group, PLLC, 400 Southwest Judd Parkway, REZ 2022-04. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Planning Director Davison.
I am submitting this agenda abstract and supporting documents into the official records of the town. This property totals 9.27 acres and is currently in the town's corporate limits. The property is vacant and generally forested with a creek running north to south through the center of the property. The property is currently zoned General Commercial Conditional Zoning District. The zoning map amendment petition requests approval of the General Commercial Conditional Zoning District. The zoning district is intended to permit a mix of high-intensity non-residential development of convenience services, retail, office, institutional, regional, retail shopping, employment centers, and service uses. This property was rezoned as part of REZ 2017-34 that also included the Infinite Self-Storage Facility at 408 and 414 Southwest Judd Parkway. This rezoning petition is applicable only to 400 Southwest Judd Parkway and does not amend any of the zoning conditions on the adjacent properties. The The purpose of this petition is to update the permitted and prohibited uses to match the town's current permitted uses in the general commercial zoning district and to appropriately expand the permitted uses at the property in order to provide opportunity for a viable commercial and/or flex development. The following zoning conditions were approved as part of REZ 2017-34 and remain applicable as part of this updated amendment. 25% of the land shall remain undisturbed. There shall be no outdoor storage allowed on the site. A Type A landscape buffering shall be required on the southern and eastern boundaries of the project within 50 feet of the southern and 40 feet on the eastern side. Lighting shall be no more than 20 feet in height and will contain full cutoff fixtures that emit light at 45 degrees or less to the ground. And building materials shall be of neutral colors, and materials used shall be in harmony with the town's requirements per section 9-1356 of the LDO. Now, the petitioner is requesting the following uses be prohibited at the subject property. Those uses, marked with an asterisk, were previously prohibited as part of REZ 2017-34. So I'm going to read those first. So these were previously prohibited and are still prohibited. Parking deck, transit terminal, hotel, motel, extended stay facility, nightclub, dance club, electronic sweepstakes, gaming operation, sexually oriented business, tattoo and body piercing, beach bingo, golf course, convenience store, funeral home, pawn shop, shopping center, tire sales and service, manufactured home sales and service, kennel for commercial boarding and breeding. The following are added prohibitions: recycling collection station, recycling transfer station, water wastewater treatment facility private, and car wash temporary, car wash auto detailing, automotive repair, bona fide farm. I think that hits them all. Also, place of worship, yard sale, mixed-use development. Those are all new prohibitions. Live-work unit was a previous prohibition. The petitioner is requesting only the following uses to be permitted at the subject property. A list of permitted uses was not included in REZ 2017-34, but those uses that were previously prohibited, zoning conditions, are also marked with an asterisk, and I will highlight them. Community services, school, trade, vocational, financial institutions, government facilities and services, medical offices and facilities, parks facilities, open and civic space, greenways, bus stops, park and ride, broadcasting station, radio, television or filming studio, small wireless facilities, telecommunication facilities and services, restaurants, food service and sales, restaurants mobile, office, business professional, indoor recreation, game room, arcade, outdoor recreation, retail sales and service, accessory buildings, sale. Brew pub and bar was previously prohibited as part of the category adult use. Dry cleaning and laundromat, farmer's market, health club and gym, personal service, seasonal outdoor sales and display, specialized repair service, small engine repair, vehicle parts and accessories retail was previously prohibited. Construction services was previously prohibited, specifically special trade contractor, which falls under construction services. Brewery and distillery, research and development, accessory uses, business incubator, flex space vending machines, animal hospital and veterinary clinic, greenhouse and nursery, vehicle charter services, solar energy panels, temporary mobile units, daycare accessory, daycare commercial, private utility buildings and uses, recreation facilities private, vehicle, boat, and equipment sales and/or rental with a special use permit was previously prohibited. Drive-in theater with a special use permit was also prohibited as part of the category assembly use, and place of worship temporary. Surrounding properties are generally a mix of residential, commercial, and park open space uses. The Southview Point and Woodland Point subdivisions lie to the east, and the currently under construction Infinite Storage is to the southeast. To the south and southwest, respectively, are the Parker Point and Parker's Ridge subdivisions. To the west and northwest of the property, directly across the Norfolk Southern Rail Line, is Fleming Loop Recreational Park. The 2035 Community Vision Land Use Plan calls for the small-scale commercial center classification at the subject property. This classification is defined as land supporting small-scale commercial centers that provide goods and services to surrounding neighborhoods. Their proximity to neighborhoods requires that operations be low intensity, unobtrusive, and at a scale and design compatible with nearby residential development. The requested zoning map amendment is consistent with the 2035 Community Vision Land Use Plan. The town is currently updating its 2035 Land Use Plan, as you know, and the 2040 Land Use Plan update recommends designating the property as suburban commercial, which also aligns with the 2035 Land Use Plan designation of small-scale commercial classification, so it's all compliant. Public water and sewer are available to serve the subject property. The subject property is located along Southwest Judd Parkway. Southwest Judd Parkway is classified by the town's 2035 Community Transportation Plan as a 100-foot right-of-way and identified as a 3-lane median divided road with turn lanes and side paths, and a future carrying capacity of 18,300 average daily trips. Southwest Judd Parkway is currently a 3-lane median divided road with turn lanes and side paths. However, the portion of the road directly in front of the subject property is 2 lanes with no center turn lanes as it approaches the railroad tracks. It has a current carrying capacity of 18,300 average daily trips. As this section of Judd Parkway has not yet been accepted by NCDOT, traffic counts have not been performed. The petitioner held a neighborhood meeting on May 24, 2022 at Curry Engineering, 205 South Fuquay Avenue in Fuquay-Varina. The meeting report is attached, and staff takes no position as to its content. Management and staff recommend approval of the proposed zoning map amendment as it is consistent with the 2035 and 2040 Community Vision Land Use Plans and is reasonable and in the best interest of the public for the following reasons. 1, the requested zoning map amendment is consistent with the 2035 Community Vision Land Use Plan's recommendation CF1, invest in existing growth areas, which encourages the extension of utilities and growth of development in areas that are already in the growth process to maximize effectiveness. 2, the requested zoning map amendment is consistent with the proposed updated 2040 Community Vision Land Use Plan's recommendation to designate the property as suburban commercial, as this land use designation aligns with the 2035 Land Use Plan small-scale commercial center classification. And 3, conditions proposed by the petitioner effectively limit future development to be compatible with the surrounding areas. At the June 20th, 2022 regular meeting, the Planning Board voted unanimously to recommend approval. The motion tonight is to approve REZ 2022-04, a zoning map amendment at 400 Southwest Judd Parkway from the General Commercial Conditional Zoning District to the General Commercial Conditional Zoning District. The proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the 2040 Community Vision Land Use Plan and is reasonable and in the best interest of the public for the reasons identified by both management and staff. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Got hot for a minute. Any board members have any questions? Thank you.
No.
The hearing is now open. Does anyone attending in person wish to speak in favor of the zoning map amendment? Right in the back, Don.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. How are you?
Good evening.
Members of the board, my name is Don Curry with Curry Engineering, 205 South Fuquay Avenue here in Fuquay-Varina. On behalf of the owner, we appreciate your consideration for this rezoning request. I have nothing to add to staff's report. We appreciate the job that Ms. Davidson did. But I'm here to answer any questions if you have them. So just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Does anyone else attending in person wish to speak in favor of the zoning map amendment? Does anyone attending in person wish to speak in opposition to the zoning map amendment? Scott, does anyone attending virtually wish to speak in favor?
No hands are raised.
I can't hear you.
No hands are raised.
No hands. Does anyone attending virtually wish to speak in opposition to the zoning map amendment, Scott?
There are no hands raised.
Got me all checked up. Hearing is now closed. Any discussion by the board? If not, what is the pleasure of the board?
Well, just, Mr. Mayor, I think just looking, to the future, I think that area is a good place because I consider that still almost being a food desert, going up to 42 and different places where we don't have those restaurants and different things like that. So seeing this type of plan to be able to start to bring more commercial use to that area where we continue to provide a great quality of life for our citizens to where it's walkable is something good to see in the future. So I'm excited about seeing that, we are transitioning some of these areas to where potentially we can have those restaurants or different other things, amenities for our citizens to be able to walk to them and enjoy them as well. And being so close to our park makes it even better for a lot of the parents and different people like that, especially if, say, we had some type of tournament at Fleming Loop. It's easy for them to either walk there or it's a quick drive, get over there and get back to something. So just to see I'm excited to see what comes to that property.
It's a great site. I think exactly right. This will help yield some good opportunities.
So I'll go ahead and make a motion.
I'm ready for a motion.
All right, to approve RAZ 2022-04, zoning map amendment of 400 Southwest Judd Parkway from the General Commercial Conditional Zoning District to the General Commercial Conditional Zoning District. The proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the 2040 Community Vision Land Use Plan and is reasonable and is in the best interest of the public for the reasons identified by management and staff.
Second.
Motion and second. No further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Final public hearing tonight, Fire Station number 4, construction and financing, guaranteed maximum price, financing resolution, project ordinance amendment, and interlocal agreement with Wake County. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Town Manager.
All right, so the purpose of this agenda item is to hold a public hearing on the financing of Fire Station number 4, followed by consideration of a resolution in support of the financing, the approval of a guaranteed maximum price, the project ordinance amendment, and an interlocal agreement with Wake County. On June 21st, the board approved a resolution of preliminary findings for the financing of the Fire Station number 4 project in the amount of $8.5 million. In April of 2011, the board approved Bobbitt Construction Incorporated as a design build contractor and approved a memorandum of understanding with Wake County to share in the cost of design for a joint fire and EMS facility in Fuquay-Varina Fire Station number 4. Bobbitt Construction Incorporated solicited bids in order to provide a guaranteed maximum price for the construction of Fire Station number 4, which came in at $8,858,174. The amount exceeded the preliminary construction estimate and June 21st, approved resolution. For this reason, a revised preliminary findings resolution is provided for board consideration and approval. Also attached is the guaranteed maximum price from Bobbitt Construction for board approval contingent upon local government commission approval at their August meeting. The total amount includes contractor, design, 90-day, and market contingencies to protect the town from adverse schedule or financial risk presented by the unique labor and supply chain challenges in the current construction market. Additionally, the design build delivery method is intended to deliver the project in an expedient manner while minimizing conflict between designer and contractor, which further mitigates schedule and financial risk for the town. While the guaranteed maximum price exceeds budget primarily due to higher than expected site development costs, management and staff have concluded that the award of the bid at the current guaranteed maximum price is in the best interest of the town, due to the high likelihood that rebidding the project will delay the project 3 months or longer while exposing the town to incurring additional labor and material price increases and interest rate escalation. This delay would be needed to solicit new installment financing proposals, contractor bids, and meet the local government commission procedural and calendar deadlines. With assistance from the town's financial advisors who are here this evening, Davenport and Company, bids were solicited for financing the construction, administration, and cost of issuance. Of the bids that we received, the bid from Truist Financial Corporation for 20 years at 3.41% is recommended to the board for approval contingent upon local government commission approval at their August meeting. It should be noted that the lowest interest rate response from Chase is not a valid option for the town, as the town was given a deadline to accept the proposal on the same day as the bid review meeting, and this approval requires town board action. So they left no time for consideration, essentially. Finally, an interlocal agreement, an ILA, that I'll refer to continually through this presentation with Wake County EMS and Wake County Fire is attached for your consideration. This agreement has been created with joint input from Wake County with the expectation of approval at their regular scheduled meeting on August 15th. However, I should note that Wake County is still working through the nuances of this ILA. The town and Wake County Board of Commissioners have planned for the construction of Fire Station Number 4 and participated in the joint design costs to bring all parts of this project for final approval prior to construction, contingent LGC approval of debt issuance. Debt service and operational costs for Fire Station 4 were factored into the operating budget. And while the construction amount exceeds budget expectations for the total project, the favorable interest rate and the interlocal agreement cost shares result in a debt service cost falling within the budget throughout the 5-year plan. So while the $8.8 million is higher than the 8.5 we thought, the 3.41% interest rate, and the percentage allocation that we have planned with Wake County EMS and Wake County Fire Service still allows the debt service over 20 years to fall within what we have planned for in our budget and in the next 5-year plan. If all recommended actions are approved by the town board at this meeting, construction notice to proceed is expected upon local government commission approval at their August 2nd meeting and Wake County approval of the ILA at their August 15th meeting. The total financing is not to exceed $9.1 million, which consists of the guaranteed maximum price of $8,858,174, cost of issuance, and estimated at $85,000 and $75,000 for owner testing. So cost of issuance, $85,000, $75,000 for owner testing and compliance. Bids were received from various financial institutions, as I mentioned. Again, Truist Financial Corporation, 3.41%, 20 years. And this does fall in line with the percentage of cost allocation, as I've previously mentioned. The recommendation to the board this evening is to conduct a public hearing, followed by a motion as follows, and there's 6 points to this motion recommendation. First, approve a revised preliminary resolution supporting the financing of Fire Station Number 4 due to the increased cost of construction. Second, approve the guaranteed maximum price of $8,858,174 with Bobbitt Construction. Third, approve the final financing resolution and financing agreement with Truist Financial Corporation for 20 years at 3.41% interest. Fourth, approve a project ordinance amendment for construction funding for the Fire Station Number 4 project. 5, approve an interlocal agreement with Wake County for EMS and fire tax district shared cost in the project and debt service payments subject to town attorney review as to form and non-substantive changes that might be made either by the town or by Wake County. And 6, authorize the mayor, the town manager, and the finance director to execute financing agreements, the guaranteed maximum price documents, and the interlocal agreement upon approval by Wake County and the local government commission at their next scheduled meetings in August of 2022. Here tonight is several members of the team that have been working on this project, both with Davenport and Company, as well as with Bobbitt, as well as with Sanford Holzhauser, our bond counsel. And so I'm happy to answer any questions the board might have, either before or after the public hearing. And our professional consultants are here to answer any questions that the board might have as well.
Questions yet? Okay. Thank you. Hearing is now open. Does anyone attending in person wish to speak in favor of the Fire Station Number 4 construction and financing resolution? Does anyone attending in person wish to speak in opposition to the Fire Station Number 4 construction and financing resolution? Scott, does anyone attending virtually wish to speak in favor?
No hands are raised.
Scott, does anyone attending virtually wish to speak in opposition?
No hands are raised.
Okay, hearing is now closed. Any further discussion by the board? What is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Mayor, I will attempt to make a motion with all these points on it. I'll make a motion to approve a revised preliminary resolution supporting the financing of Fire Station Number 4 due to increased cost of construction. Number 2, approve the guaranteed maximum price GMP of $8,858,174 for Bobbitt Construction. Number 3, approve the final financing resolution, financing agreement with Truist Financial Corporation with 20 years at 3.41% interest. Number 4, approve a project ordinance amendment for construction funding for the Fire Station Number 4 project. Number 5, approve an interlocal agreement, ILA, with Wake County EMS and Fire Tax District shared costs in the project and debt service payment subject to town attorney review as to form and non-substantive changes. And finally, number 6, authorize the mayor, the town manager, and finance director to execute financing agreements, GMP documents, and the ILA upon approval by Wake County and the local government commission at their next scheduled meetings in August of 2022. That's my motion, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. No further discussion. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, Chief, time to get to work. Get the fire station going. We've been talking about it for years. We're ready now. I know y'all are ready. Thank y'all for your hard work too. I know your team's behind you right here. That is, y'all have all worked together on this right here, and it is it's set to go to construction soon. When do you think you're breaking ground?
First September.
All right. Look forward to that. I know we're all, the whole board will be excited for that. It's an exciting time for that though. So thank y'all for your hard work, and thank you for your consultants for helping you too for us all to be able to get there. Okay, consent agenda. Next on our agenda. What is the board's pleasure on the items on the consent agenda?
Mayor Massingill, I move that we approve the consent agenda points 8A, 8B, 8C, 8D, 8E.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll make a second.
Motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Y'all want to take a quick little bathroom break or
Yes.
2-minute recess
Yeah,
before we keep going? Okay. I call it 2-minute recess.
I wasn't going to ask for a break.
okay.
We're awake now. You need to be
That's
a
right.
little bit softer with that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay, I call our meeting back to order now from our short recess. We had no items removed from our consent agenda. First item on the docket is our administrative reports, item 10A, Police Department, limited use take-home fleet policy. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Police Chief Medina. Okay, all right. Manager?
Policy recommendation here. So Chief Medina will be here to answer questions that the board might have, but I told him I would work with him on presenting this item. The purpose of this agenda item is to consider expanding the Fuquay-Varina Police Department's limited use take-home fleet policy to allow police officers that live within the 15 miles of the corporate limits of the town of Fuquay-Varina to drive vehicles to their residences. Fuquay-Varina's Police Department's current take-home vehicle program was instituted on August 10th of 2012. The program allowed sworn law enforcement employees to have a take-home vehicle if they resided within the town limits. On December 1st of 2018, the take-home vehicle program was updated to allow employees to have a take-home vehicle if they resided within 10 miles of the town limits. On May 16th of this year, we conducted a survey of law enforcement agencies within and or surrounding Wake County pertaining to take-home vehicle programs and their distance limitations. And we did provide those findings, but I'll just quickly review them. Raleigh PD is the only one here in Wake County that requires their officers to reside inside the town limits to qualify for a take-home vehicle. Employees also must have 2 years of service and hold rank as a first-class officer. Fuquay-Varina falls into the category of the 10-mile radius, as I previously mentioned. And then in the 15-mile radius is the Garner PD, the Holly Springs PD, Rollsville PD, and their employees must complete their field training program to be qualified, and the Zebulon PD. And their employees receive their take-home vehicle upon successful completion of the field training program as well. The 20-mile radius is the Anger PD, and then there are 4 in Wake County that allow up to 30 miles. The Cary PD, the Knightdale PD, 30 roadway miles from the Knightdale Police Department itself. The Wake Forest PD, and they actually allow 32 driving miles from the Wake Forest Police Department, and they must complete field training. And then the Wendell Police Department, 30 miles from the town limits, and the employees must receive their take-home vehicle or receive their take-home vehicle upon successful completion of field training. And then there are 2 that have no mileage restrictions. The Apex Police Department, no mileage restriction if the residence is in Wake County, or 35 miles, air miles of the Apex Police Department if the residence is outside of Wake County. And then Morrisville Police Department has no mileage restrictions, but the employees must complete field training. And you might have noticed here in Fuquay-Varina some other agencies like Apex and Cary and perhaps even a few others, police cars that are in homes here in Fuquay-Varina. And so based on the findings of this survey, and in order to strengthen our competitiveness in recruitment and retention of law enforcement officers, I and Chief Medina are recommending that the take-home vehicle program be revised to allow employees to have a take-home vehicle if they reside within 15 miles of the town limits. At least put us on the same playing field as Garner and Holly Springs, 2 agencies which we do heavily compete for talent with and retain talent with. In addition to serving as a recruitment and a retention tool, the revised take-home vehicle program, as proposed, it does have a number of other operational benefits. For example, expediting after-hours emergency response, as personnel with take-home vehicles are able to drive directly to the scene with most of the necessary equipment in their take-home vehicle already. Some day-to-day operational responsibilities don't always require staff to report back to the police department, meaning a take-home vehicle could save both paid and personnel fuel and time, which is a benefit to the town and our employees. The program serves as a significant recruitment tool for officers, even as new personnel must first meet the qualifications and be assigned an available take-home vehicle. Such an incentive may be an effective recruitment tool for qualified applicants who live within 15 miles of the city limits, and additionally, the practice may relieve financial or situational burdens for officers. For example, officers in a single-car family or officers with driving-age children would likely welcome the take-home vehicle. Advantages to the police agency include effectively having 2 shifts on the road during shift change, which could result in faster responses to emergencies and simplification of routine call-outs for crime in the area. Take-home vehicles are associated with reduced accidents and improved maintenance of vehicles resulting from pride in ownership. And increasing the mileage of our take-home vehicle program will aid in retaining tenured officers residing within that 10 to 15 mile range. By adding that extra 5 miles, there may be tenured officers possibly seeking employment elsewhere. We don't know that due to costs associated with their daily commute when they could find employment closer to their residence or fall within the take-home vehicle mileage of another police agency. We currently have 47 employees who have personally assigned take-home vehicles, and 40 of those employees live outside the corporate limits. And the town's current cost of fuel, the town is paying about $17,588 annually for those 40 employees to drive their vehicles to and from work. The Fuquay-Varina Police Department currently has 3 employees who live within the 10-mile distance who do not have take-home vehicles assigned to them. If the Fuquay-Varina Police Department were to extend the personally assigned take-home program to 15 miles, the department will only have 4 current employees who do not qualify for a take-home vehicle. So by going to this, at least 4 that that would not qualify. It would add some additional costs, about $7,900 annually in fuel costs, plus potentially some additional wear and tear on the vehicles. I'm recommending, and Chief Medina is recommending, approval of the proposed take-home vehicle policy as I've just presented to you. While there is an operational cost associated with the implementation of this, we do feel that it's an improvement to helping us be better competitive in the marketplace with respect to recruitment and retention, and it justifies the implementation of the cost of the program. So I've gone over all the cost implications. I won't review those again. The recommendation, after you've had a chance to consider this, perhaps ask some questions of Chief Medina, is to approve the police department fleet policy change as presented and recommended.
Changing it from 10 to 15, all changing it from 10 to 15, all personnel that's within 15 miles will be able to have a car after we buy the 4 more cars.
All but 4, and let me get my mic back on. All but 4 would qualify.
Within the all but 4 officers would qualify.
Correct.
But all those ones that qualify will have after we buy these 4 vehicles.
That's right. It would require the purchase of 4 new vehicles, which I provided to you in your agenda abstract, which there is a budget plan for that, which would be to reallocate funds that fell back into the town's general fund in fiscal year 22, back into fiscal year 23, funds not spent in fiscal year 22, out of the police department's budget, back into fiscal year 23, so that we could acquire those 4 vehicles.
Would those and the 4 new officers that you mentioned about hiring?
We already have the town's budget already includes vehicles for those officers.
And then as long as they live within 15 miles, they'll get to drive home. That's my point. We're already planning to buy those vehicles, which is good. And these vehicles will make our existing officers whole, help us on retention, and expanding this policy. The next 4, hopefully, it will help us be more competitive in recruiting them. In addition to what we've done recently with our pay, it should put us on a equal, if not higher playing field than our competitors, so it'd be good for recruitment.
That is the expectation.
I think that I like seeing police cars out in the community. I like seeing police cars driving down the road, and I like seeing police cars in neighborhoods. And I think this helps to recruit that. It's great. Anything you can do to help keep us on the edge right there. It's a great plan.
Thank you.
Any comments from any other board members?
Mr. Mayor, I just think that when you look at it, it's you were talking about the fuel mileage jumps out at you 25,000, but when we think about the amount of money that we have put into the pay plan as part of a recruiting tool to recruit the best and brightest that we can get. 25,000 is a drop in the bucket compared to some of the salary things we've done. I mean, it is real money, but I think the payback on recruitment, I mean, I know personally when I was police chief, and we had a much tighter take-home policy. I lost officers to the Wake County Sheriff's Department because they could drive their cars home to wherever they lived, and we were losing good officers strictly over a car policy. And I think $25,000 is pretty, it's real money, but it's a pretty small investment when you start looking at losing 2 or 3, possibly 4 officers a year when it comes to the cost of hiring, training, and equipping a new police officer. So I think it's actually pretty good return on the money to be able to keep those officers. Because I know personally I lost officers over cars.
Yes, sir.
No further comments from board members. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the police department fleet policy change as presented and recommended by staff.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. No further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Good job, guys. Next item on our agenda is administrative report, item 10B, South Judd Parkway and South Main Street intersection operational improvements, LAP project HL0041 NCDOT supplemental agreement. More information about this will come from Engineering Director Poland. Matt?
The purpose of this agenda item is to consider a project ordinance amendment adding $400,000 in NCDOT spot mobility funds to the project for the South Judd Parkway and South Main Street intersection operational improvements project. In 2019, town staff secured funding for the South Judd Parkway and South Main Street intersection operational improvements project, LAP project HL0041, with the Federal Highway Administration providing $494,610 of the funding through the locally administered projects program, grant program, LAP. The town's required match for this project is $123,653, or 20%. Following the town's adoption of the South Judd Parkway and South Main Street intersection operational improvement project, NCDOT programmed a spot mobility project, SM5705S, for additional improvements along the same intersection as the town's roadway improvement project. The town's project included the installation of a separated left turn lane from the westbound leg of the intersection on South Main Street, US 401, and the addition of approximately 1,500 feet of sidewalk along the south side of Southeast Judd Parkway, which will close a key gap in the corridor pedestrian facilities. The town's portion of the project also included some minor widening along each side of Southeast Judd Parkway, and will include approximately 1,200 feet of new curb and gutter. NCDOT's SM project improvements were primarily focused on signal timing and the widening of the northbound right turn lane, South Main Street. NCDOT's proposed improvements did not include curb and gutter, nor did it account for the pedestrian accommodations. NCDOT and town staff have proposed an agreement combining project scopes and budgets for efficiency. As a result, easement, right-of-way acquisition, and construction management responsibilities will fall to town staff, while NCDOT staff have agreed to complete the engineering design to finish preparing construction plans to cover the improvements from both projects. In addition, NCDOT has agreed to transfer the remaining $400,000 of its spot mobility project funding to the town's project. This additional funding will replace the town's original funding match obligation of $123,653, which consisted of PAL bill funds. NCDOT's additional funding contribution of $400,000 will increase the town's total project budget to $894,610 from $618,263. Town management and staff recommend the adoption of an amended project ordinance that replaces the town's PAL bill match of $123,653 with $400,000 of state funding, resulting in a new total project budget of $894,610. Town management and staff also recommend that the town manager be authorized to enter into a supplemental agreement with NCDOT to officially appropriate the addition of state funds to the project, subject to approval by the town attorney as to form. And we do have a fiscal note. On May 21st, 2019, the town board passed an ordinance number 19-28 establishing local funding for the South Judd Parkway and South Main Street intersection operational improvements project. The ordinance included a total project budget of $618,263 with the local required match of 20%, totaling $123,653, being allocated from the town's POW bill budget. The recommended supplemental agreement will reallocate $400,000 in state funds from an overlapping NCDOT spot mobility project. The NCDOT spot mobility funds will fully fund the construction of the combined project and replace the town's POW bill match with the state money. The recommended action includes an adoption of an amended project ordinance, replacing the town's POW bill match of $123,653 with state funds and adding the remaining $276,347 of NCDOT spot mobility funds, resulting in a total project budget of $894,610. And the recommendation is motion to approve a project ordinance amendment adding $400,000 of NCDOT spot mobility funds to the South Judd Parkway and South Main Street intersection operational improvements project, replacing the town's previously required local match of $123,653, and to authorize the town manager to enter into a supplemental agreement with NCDOT subject to approval by the town attorney as to form. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Engineering Director. This is a intersection that we know for a long time has been discussed in our community right here. You know, I'm sure when it was, do you remember how long ago Judd Parkway intersected with Main when that first happened?
Oh, mercy.
I mean,
yeah, I guess it'd be.
That's what I was thinking about 20 years ago, right there. And it did not, I mean, today looking at something that has a straight lane and go left lane, you'd sit there and think sometimes that's silly. Why would somebody build something that way? But 20 years ago, there was not nearly the traffic on there, not just Fuquay-Varina traffic, but Harnett County drive-through traffic. And so this right here is a project that is going to not just help with the citizens that live in Fuquay-Varina, but also the drive-through traffic that's coming through here to Harnett County, turning left right there. We've heard that since 2000, just as you mentioned, since 2019 when it was first approved, and DOT sat on everybody's money for a little while, and then they decided to release it now. And so excited that you've been able to partner with DOT and on these matching grants and get this kind of project done. I mean, this is one that I know every member of this board is well aware with, and probably every citizen of Fuquay-Varina is well aware of it. And then pulling these sidewalks, that was my comment. You have the south side existing sidewalk that's tying into it. North side already has sidewalk, and you'll keep sidewalk. You won't be removing sidewalk on north side, would you? Or at least you'll be repairing it there. I think this is one that you can't start soon enough. I know you and me were talking with a lady in our community earlier this evening, and she lives around the corner, not too far from there, and has all her neighbors are excited for that. What's the time frame that you're thinking construction will start to construction be finished?
So we just finished up 100% designs. That means all the signal design has been approved. We are now working towards easement and right-of-way acquisition. So there are a few easements that we need to meet with citizens and make them an offer on the easements that we need to build some of the sidewalks on the south side. Once that's complete, we can submit for construction authorization August. It takes 30 to 45 days to get your funding released from that. So August, September, possibly bid it. It's going to be late 22, early 23 when we break ground.
When you break ground, how long do you think it'd take to complete the improvements?
That's a tricky question. There's a really long lead time right now on mast arms. And it could be anywhere from 10 to 12 months just waiting on your mast arms to come in. So
tied up on some shoelaces and some rope across.
we can put them on some temporary poles for sure.
We don't leave that to hold us up.
But as far as substantially,
if I have to tell the citizens we're waiting on a mast arm when we can tie it up with a rope, that's not going to go good.
So substantially complete, it may be 6 to 9 months of construction. But as far as the finishing touches, it may take some time to get those mast arms in there.
And then you can figure out. I'm assuming you'll figure out some kind of method so it doesn't sit closed waiting on back ordered items in. Okay. Great. I think this board's excited. Any questions or comments or motions from board
No,
members?
I think the sidewalk will be a great addition. I know, having been the 4th of July and walking down the street to get to the park,
Yeah.
this will be a really good addition. And your timeline will have this done by our next celebration. So that's exciting. And anyone that sat at this light will be very pleased once this is done. I've sat at it many times trying to go straight and cursing it myself. So be excited for this addition.
Motion, Commissioner Watson?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve project ordinance amendment, adding $400,000 of NCDOT spot mobility funds to the South Judd Parkway and South Main Street intersection operational improvements project, LAP project HL0041, replacing the town's previously required local match of, what was that, $123,653,000, and to authorize the town manager to enter into a supplemental agreement with NCDOT, subject to approval by the town attorney as to form.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Matt, will that have a leading green turn left?
I have a protected left? Yes.
Good. Yeah. We're about to amend the motion if not. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Motion carries. Item 10C, municipal agreement and project ordinance Southeast Judd pedestrian improvements, LAP project BL-0054. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Director Poland.
So the purpose of this agenda item is to consider authorizing the town manager to enter into a municipal agreement with NCDOT and establish a project ordinance for the Southeast Judd pedestrian improvements project. In the most recent round of locally administered projects program grant awards, town staff secured funding for the Southeast Judd pedestrian improvements project for the federal fiscal year 2022-2023. The Southeast Judd pedestrian improvements project will provide approximately 600 feet of new sidewalk along with curb and gutter to close a gap in the corridor's pedestrian facilities along the Southeast Judd Parkway between Barneswick Drive and Holland Road. The project will also include minor roadway pavement widening, curb and gutter, striping, and storm drainage improvements. Some minor right-of-way acquisition may be required to complete the project. The town is now expected to execute the required municipal agreements and obligate its cost-share portion for the project's funds. After the execution of the agreement, grant funding will become available to obligate towards the design of the project at the beginning of the federal fiscal year, which is October 1st, 2022. Town staff is requesting that the town board authorize the town manager to execute the agreement and return the agreement to the North Carolina Department of Transportation for their governing board's approval. The pending municipal agreement is like previous LAP project funding agreements executed by the town and has been reviewed by the town attorney. Prompt execution of this agreement is necessary to expedite federal funding obligations. Our fiscal note is the recommended action includes establishing a project ordinance with a total project cost of $723,960. The Federal Highway Administration is providing 80%, or $579,168, of the total cost through the LAP grant funding program that will require the town to provide the remaining 20%, which is $144,792 from PAL bill funding. The PAL bill funding will consist of the $123,653 formerly allocated for the South Judd Parkway and South Main Street intersection operational improvements project, supplemented by an additional $21,139 transfer from general fund PAL bill reserves. And the recommendation is a motion to authorize the town manager to enter into a municipal agreement with NCDOT for the Southeast Judd Pedestrian Improvements Project, BL0054, subject to approval by the town attorney as to form and establish a project ordinance in the amount of $723,960 as presented and recommended. And I'll be happy to answer any questions about this project.
Any board members have any questions or comments?
I just want to make a comment. I think this is a great project. I used to walk up in that area and walk many times on that shoulder over there in the high grass, wishing there was a sidewalk there. So I think this is an excellent sidewalk improvement in our community. I'm very excited about that one.
Make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to authorize the town manager to enter into a municipal agreement with the NCDOT for the Southeast Judd Pedestrian Improvements Projects BL 0054, subject to approval by the town attorney as to form and establish a project ordinance in the amount of $723,960 as presented and recommended.
Second.
Motion and second.
Oh, yeah.
No further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Both of y'all not too far from.
That's right.
Y'all right there. I know exactly what you're talking about. That's really gonna make that whole road be completed and look good.
Be nice.
Next item on our agenda is preliminary subdivision plat, Springwoods Town Subdivision, SUBPR 2021-03. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Planning Director Davison. Ma'am?
Tonight.
Last one done tonight.
I am submitting the agenda, abstract and supporting documents in the official records of the town. The submitted preliminary subdivision, Springwoods Town Subdivision, is located at 917 South Judd Parkway Southeast and 0 Award Street on 6.623 acres in the residential medium density conditional zoning district. There are substantial zoning conditions this board has previously approved. If you'd like, I can read them all, or we can just skip through them.
It's fine.
All right, so these zoning conditions were approved on August 2020 as part of REZ 2020-09, which downzoned the property from residential high-density conditional zoning district and a multi-family land use designation to the current residential medium-density conditional zoning district and mixed-use residential land use designation. The preliminary subdivision plat proposes a townhouse development with 39 lots. The minimum allowable width is 18 feet, and the minimum lot width provided is 20 feet, with the average lot size of 1,944 square feet. In compliance with zoning condition 1, a minimum of 20% open space, or 1.32 acres, is required, and 60%, or 3.97 acres of open space, is provided. Vehicular access to the project area is provided via Southeast Judd Parkway and an extension of Award Street to the project entrance. Southeast Judd Parkway is classified by the town's 2035 Community Transportation Plan as a 100-foot right-of-way and identified as a 3-lane median divided road with turn lanes and side path. South Judd Parkway Southeast is currently a 2-lane road. The current capacity for Southeast Judd Parkway is 12,700 average daily trips. 2020 NCDOT traffic analysis approximately a half-mile east of the subject properties and traffic counts for Southeast Judd Parkway indicate a volume of 9,800 average daily trips. Since State Spot Mobility Project SM5705S and Town Lap Project HL0041 incorporates the subdivision frontage along Judd Parkway, this development is requesting a fee in lieu of roadway improvements along its frontage as directed by the Land Development Ordinance and has coordinated their on-site storm drainage to accommodate the NCDOT project. And that was included in your consent agenda tonight. Award Street is classified as a local street by the town's 2035 Community Transportation Plan with a 45-foot right-of-way, 2 lanes, and a sidewalk. As a local road, traffic counts are not available. Public water and sewer are available to serve the subject property. Utility infrastructure will be installed by the developer, and by raising the overall site grade, the developer worked with the town's utility department to provide gravity sewer to the units and avoid the addition of a public pump station. Raising the site did result in the necessity for several retaining walls, but as noted on the plans, the stone-strong wall systems will provide the wall structures to minimize environmental impacts while ensuring no tiebacks encroach into the public right-of-way. The proposed preliminary subdivision plat meets all town requirements. As such, management and staff recommend approval. At the June 20th, 2022 regular meeting, the planning board found the subdivision plat consistent with town requirements and voted 4-2 to recommend approval. The dissenting votes focused on concerns about the proposed development not meeting the town's design specifications. Given the site's environmental challenges, town staff worked with the developer on the infrastructure design to allow the project to move forward in accordance with allowable town design specifications. The engineering director supports the reduction in the minimum road radius and tangent distance between the curves in order to minimize environmental impacts on a challenging infill site. Since the planning board meeting, the plans were revised and resubmitted to correct an error in the length of public street, add additional landscaping to screen the dog park from Judd Parkway, and additional language was added to the HOA covenants to provide for pedestrian ingress and egress across the private alleyway for access to the community dog park. The motion tonight is to approve the Springwood Towns preliminary subdivision plat, SUB PR 2021-03, located at 917 South Judd Parkway Southeast, as presented and recommended. I am available for any questions.
Pam, one condition is mentioned earlier, construction traffic. This was rezoned in, you said fall of last year, is that correct?
2020, I think it was.
2022.
August of 2020. Mhm.
All 2 years ago. The item 2, which is a zoning condition, says that requires that access to Judd Parkway. I know a question's been asked before, why is that access into Judd Parkway? Because when it was zoned 2 years ago, it was a requirement that access Judd Parkway.
And that is to keep the construction track off of Award Street specifically. Award
That's
Street
right.
is a much smaller road.
And therefore, there's no choice but to have an entrance onto Judd Parkway.
That and there is an existing right-of-way there that's just unconstructed. So that was a logical place since there's already a public right-of-way present on the property.
That's my point. It's not a choice not to do it though, because it was part of zoning conditions right there. So yeah, exactly that connection point right there. The total units here is 39. Is that
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
39 right here. Over how many acres?
6.623.
So if it had been on 6 acres, had high density zoning it had originally, that would have been 15 units to the acre, which
Could be up to 16.
is up to 16. 6 times 16 is 84. And Matt, I've checked me on that math. We're pretty close to it. Anyway, point is, it's less than half of the units of what
It
was
is.
originally
And-
on there.
I mean, with the existing pond and the wetlands present on site, I mean, 3.97 acres is going to be preserved in open space. So I
It's
think
pretty
that's
pond there.
pretty substantial.
Pretty pond there too. Any questions or comments from board members? If not, I entertain a motion.
Mayor Massengill, I move that we approve the Springwoods Towns preliminary subdivision plat sub PR 2021-03 located at 917 South Judd Parkway Southeast as presented and recommended.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion second. No further discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, next on our agenda, we have other business. Manager's report.
Try to keep my comments brief, but there's a few things just to mention to the board this evening. Since our last meeting, we already talked about the July 1st Independence Day celebration. Just again, want to thank staff for their hard work, not just the Parks and Recreation staff, but multiple departments were out there making sure that that event goes off without issue. Public Works, namely police, fire, certainly Parks and Rec. So all employees that are involved in that event, to be able to keep it controlled, a safe environment, a fun evening for the citizens of Fuquay-Varina. It's critically important, and it was just a fantastic evening. So again, big thank you to staff for all the hard work they put into that. The Harris Nuclear Plant will be doing siren testing on July 13th at 10 a.m. So if you hear the sirens going off, it's intentional. Don't necessarily duck for cover and go hide under tables or anything. It'll be okay. But they will be testing their sirens at 10 o'clock on July 13th, and you'll hear it around the community likely. Stewart Street, portion of Stewart Street is going to be closed July 18th to the 21st, kind of between Judd Parkway and, is it between Judd and Ransdell? Yeah. they're doing a culvert, DOT is doing a culvert replacement underneath Stewart Street, and so that portion is going to be closed for several days for that work to be done. Brian Shane Cook has recently been hired as our public utilities engineer. He will start on July 18th, so I want to welcome Brian, or Shane, he goes by Shane, to our organization and to our team. Utility infrastructure plan review will be a large part of his work, but among many responsibilities in the Public Utilities Department. The job posting closes this Friday for the development liaison position that was created in the FY23 budget. Real excited about this position. Going to help usher projects through the development process for developers, and so looking forward to going ahead and reviewing these applications and these candidates, and hopefully getting the best candidate possible for this new position created within our organization. And then we do expect that proposals for the bus circulator fixed route study that we received a $50,000 grant for and was recently included in the fiscal year 23 budget to be submitted, any proposals to be submitted by July 29th, and we'll be reviewing those and eventually bringing a recommendation forward to the town board to kick that project off. So excited about moving that project forward this early in the process. I mentioned earlier, while we were waiting for the DOT presentation to get loaded up, a great many registrants for youth sports. Excited about that. It's going to have a great participation level for our fall youth sports programs, and the Arts Center camps are going very well this summer. Our theater season is opening for ticketing very soon, and Tuesdays with Maury, a community play, will be July 21st through the 23rd. An excellent book if you haven't read that book, Tuesdays with Maury. It's based on a true story. Mitch Albom, a Detroit sports writer, wrote the book and about a true experience he had. And so the community play will be at our Arts Center July 21st through the 23rd, if you get an opportunity to go check that out. Let's see if there's any additional things to mention to the board. I think I've hit most of those this evening. I will just remind you that there is a project status report in your agenda materials for July 2022 that, again, provides the status of the many projects that we have in the works or that we're getting ready to kick off now that the fiscal year 23 budget is underway. There will be no second meeting in July, as we customarily plan for only one meeting in July, so no meeting next week, July 19th. That has been canceled. Our next meeting will be August 1st. But we will have an ice cream social this Sunday, July 17th, 4 to 6 p.m. at the Fuquay Mineral Spring Park. So is it this Sunday or next? Yeah. This Sunday, that's right. The calendar's moving along here in July, but this Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. at Fuquay Mineral Spring Park. So looking forward to having the community come out and enjoy a great event there. And then the National Night Out Against Crime, which is also in conjunction with our Fuquay-Varina Police Department annual open house, will be Tuesday, August 2nd from 5 to 7 p.m. The turnout last year was phenomenal. It was a huge event last year. I know Chief Medina and his team are working to make that a successful event again this year with great community turnout. So please mark your calendars for that. The Junior Police Academy Camp will be August 15th at the Police Department. So if you know of any juniors, what's the age range for that, Chief?
12 to 17, if I'm not mistaken.
12 to 17. So if you know anybody who's in that age range that you think might have an interest in law enforcement or would find it interesting to participate in that camp, we encourage you to have them inquire about it with our police department. And the Junior Forensic Camp is August 24th. That's a one-day camp. Is that correct, Chief?
It was by popular demand. The first one filled up quickly, and this one has already pretty much got all the applicants.
I know my son and a buddy of his that he plays baseball with the town youth sports program participated in it last year, and they loved it. It was solving crime and finding out all of the particulars that go into solving a crime and hearing from the police department. My son was enamored by blood samples and all sorts of things that go into forensics and forensic science, and he came back all excited about that program. So if you know of any kids that meet that age criteria that would have an interest, I encourage you to send them to that as well. It was a good learning experience for certain. And with that, Mr. Mayor, one other thing I just would like to mention before turning it over. Earlier tonight, the town board did adopt the land use plan and land development ordinance. I personally want to thank you for the vote of confidence to allow us to move forward and work that plan and demonstrate that it is a good plan for not only our community but for the development community as well. I do want to just take a moment. I know that there were a lot of people involved in that work. At the management level, the lion's share of that work came at the direction of our Assistant Town Manager of Development Services, Jim Seymour. So I'm going to recognize him, but I want to just turn it over to him for a minute to recognize some members of the planning staff for their effort, if we indulge us for a moment.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Pam, wonderful job. I'd like to say to our planning director, Pam, you all know how hard she works. And I had the great pleasure of being able to work with her, as Adam did too, throughout this process. And Pam, I am extremely proud of you and your department. This was a significant project that we collectively have worked on, in addition to all your other responsibilities as planning director. I mean, that's one thing that sometimes we tend to lose sight of, that we work on these great plans, but yet business has not stopped. Development has not stopped. And this whole time, Pam has shepherded this through the process, and I very much appreciate that. I learn every day from Pam and couldn't do it without her. But in addition to Pam, and I know Pam would echo this, the Deputy Planning Director, Melissa Sigmund, from the LUP perspective, spearheaded this on behalf of Pam, or with Pam, I should say. And also Alyssa Hallman, who is the Senior Planner, Long Range Planner, also had a lot of work contributing to this, and I'm sure other planning staff did as well. But again, and as Manager had mentioned, thanking the town board for allowing us to now rock and roll with this plan. We are very excited about this, and just the fortunate opportunity. And but foremost, thank you to the planning department for all the hard work that they put into this. So, Pam, thank you.
With that, Mr. Mayor and board, no other comments to provide to the board or the community this evening.
I do want to echo what Jim said right then, though, in regards to that. I know a lot of time was put into the LUP and LDO updates, and you, I know you spent a lot of time with a lot of different members of the public. I know some meetings I was with you in, and some meetings you did, and in some meetings Jim and Adam, everybody has on your team. And so, thank you. There's a lot of input put in this, and it's going to yield some good products in our community. And development community will be happy too in the end, and proud of what they get to build on there, and we can be happy with the results. So, thank y'all for that hard work there. And if you find there's something that needs to be tweaked, I know you'll let us know about that. And so that's where it really does not give me any concern on that. So thank y'all again. Commissioner Garner, any words of wisdom for us tonight?
Well, I just would like to mention that there are two of these July events that I just think are so special, but that July 1st event is the most diverse thing that we have going on. It is so wonderful to see the diversity of our community all represented there, and families having a good time together. It just is such a great day, I think. And then my other favorite one is the ice cream social, and my children have determined when we are all taking, the most of us can take vacation this year, and it's going to interfere with my being there, and I don't like to miss this. But you all have a good time, and Mayor, I will not be in attendance. I hate it, because that's one of my favorite events. To me, that's one of the things that helps us feel like a charming small town.
Hallmark movie community.
Yes, it is.
Well, you'll be missed.
It is. I will really miss it. So you all have fun and enjoy the ice cream.
Thank you. Commissioner Harris?
Oh, I just wanted to say, and I told, at our break, I told our town manager that I'm so grateful that I was allowed the time to review the land use plan. It was well-written. In fact, I enjoyed reading it because I learned a lot just from reading it. And then I guess the core message is the direction that had been thought well through about how we were going to grow and how we're going to address the issues of growth. I thought it was well written. The ordinance, it was. I'm still trying to understand some of the language. I told Jim I took down all the different new categories so that I could get a better understanding of what that meant. But I'm excited about the future as far as planning. I like the idea that it's a working document, but it's a foundational document that's going to provide a policy direction for us that I think is sorely needed. So I'm grateful for that. And I just, again, would like to say thank you for the hard work, for everyone that was involved. And again, thank the board for allowing me the time to review it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Harris. Commissioner Haynes?
Yes, I definitely echo town management and Commissioner Harris. Definitely thank you for fielding our questions and phone calls and just not understanding, and thank you definitely for your hard work. I know that was a lot of work you put in, as well as the planning board as well. A few quick things. Definitely, I want to. I've heard many great things from citizens who attended the church safety training that Chief Medina and the police department put on. I've heard great things from that. A lot of the churches are really looking at how they can improve their security systems and safety for the parishioners that they have coming in on Sundays and during the week as well. I want to. The July 1st celebration was amazing. Kudos to public works, public utilities, the police department. That was the fastest I've ever gotten out the parking lot. So that was just amazing how fast everybody was moving and got out of parking lots at no time at all, because I was behind Commissioner Gardner and we got right out. The fire department for passing out the little glow sticks. I seen Chief passing out glow sticks with his little helper. So that was a great thing. But the biggest thing for me was meeting so many new citizens who literally have just moved into town of Fuquay-Varina in the last month. We met, me and Commissioner Harris met a gentleman who plays for Canadian Football League who just picked town of Fuquay-Varina out of nowhere to move. So he's like, he wants to help do a camp or something in the town of Fuquay-Varina. So that was great meeting him. I met a lot of Fort Bragg soldiers who have moved in the town of Fuquay-Varina in the last few months. So that was good speaking to them. So that was definitely a great event. Let's see, I want to give a shout out to Church Alive. They've been doing to serve the city, and they fed the Fuquay-Varina Police Department and the Fire Department about a week ago, and they called me out to come down, and one of our local food truck vendors, Corner Boys Barbecue, supplied all the food for that event, and I think they had a good time and ate, so definitely want to thank them, and they allowed me to come that Sunday to speak at their church as well. And let's see. The last thing that I put on my paper has been here for a while is it's great seeing that, from sitting out there to moving up here, just seeing how throughout, just sitting back and watching everything, seeing where we are really becoming a proactive town in all aspects, from being a lot of being reactive for so many years. So it's great seeing being proactive on many different things for the future. That speaks a lot to all the departments who work so hard every day for the future of our town, because oftentimes we've seen where we've had to be reactive in some things just to catch up with times. So now we're being very proactive in our future. So that's good to see as a whole. So that's definitely kudos and thank you for every department's hard work, including the board and everybody else for all the work you do, that we can be a town that's proactive in everything we do. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Haynes. Commissioner Watson.
I attended the we called it July 1st, but it was for July 4th event. It was a really good event. Everyone I talked to was having a lot of fun. I attended with my brother and my sister-in-law and my niece and nephew, and they all had a ton of fun. So I want to thank everyone, because I know it took all the people to come together to make that, and then afterwards to clean it all up and get it back into a functioning park and community center. So thank all of our town employees who took part in that. I attended a ribbon cutting, it was last week, for Ace Handyman Services. They're a new handyman company in town. They're not new. They're not new in general, but they're new to Fuquay. They've been around in Raleigh for a while, and they're branching out and opening up a Fuquay branch. Want to recognize all the folks tonight that for their training. They do it for multiple levels. They do it for themselves to better themselves, but it betters the department, and then in turn it betters our town and our citizens. So I want to thank all of them again for taking that extra time outside of work and getting that extra training. We appreciate it very much. I attended Coffee with a Cop. Is it the first Tuesday of the month at Starbucks? It's the first Tuesday of every month. The date doesn't change. The location changes. That was a lot of fun. I had to work the other night, but they just did custard with a popo. I keep wanting to say custard with a cop, but it's custard with a popo. So I hope you guys keep doing that, because that's a nice evening. If you can't make the morning, then you can make the evening. And so I was glad I made one, but I couldn't make the other one. But that is all I have for tonight.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Watson. Mayor Pro Tem Smith, any comments?
Just a few, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, I was out of state on vacation and missed the July 4th, our first celebration, and the Coffee with a Cop, and the last ribbon cutting. But I did get to represent our town board and attend the American Legion Post 116 100-year anniversary along with Chief Medina, and I represented the mayor there and was able to present a commendation to them. Interesting note here, they started Post 116 in 1922 with 15 members. Now they have, I think they gave us 100 years later, 1,032 members, and it's the largest post in the state. In fact, they're going to get larger because they put the arm on Chief Medina to transfer his membership there. So there'll be 1,033 if they're not already. Great time, got to spend a lot of time with the chief, but I always enjoy the American Legion things that we get to attend. What a great bunch of citizens who serve their country, but they come and join together in camaraderie and friendship and continue to serve the community. They do all kinds of community projects, and I told them that I wanted to keep getting invited to those things because I really enjoyed it. It's a great time, and we had a good time. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for letting me attend that and take care of that for you. I was glad to do it.
Thank you for going.
And then the other quick thing is just, again, tonight, we had so many of our employees come through getting certifications and being recognized for that. And I think it's pretty neat how our town staff, from the leadership, from the directors who go and get, the municipal managers training and all that type of stuff, down to the worker bees who get the job done, are constantly trying to better themselves, better serve our community. And I wish they were all here so you could say these things to them, how proud it makes me to see every one of our employees at every level of employment down in Fuquay-Varina trying to better themselves, to better serve. So department heads, just please pass them on that I know this entire board's impressed with their efforts to go above and beyond to be better at what they do. And I personally appreciate that because I know what it takes to get that done. And that's all I got, Mr. Mayor. So I'll shut up now.
Thank you for your comments. First, we talked about Independence Day, July 1st celebration lengthy tonight, and one comment I'm not sure if I heard made earlier or not was that there's a record turnout pretty much based on what projected numbers were, and so that's great. And with the amount of staff time that it takes to put on the event and then work at the event, when it's a record turnout, that's huge right there. And all the departments involved, thank y'all for what you did. Thank y'all for helping out with this. It means a lot, as you see, being a record turnout, and it doesn't just pull citizens of Fuquay-Varina, it pulls people from other areas too, and that's good. They're learning about our community, and they'll be moving here before long, before it's over with. Part of the Metro Mayors Association, about a week and a half ago, had lunch with the at the governor's mansion with a small group of us that are the largest towns in North Carolina, and it's 31 of us in this organization, 31 largest towns and cities in all of North Carolina, and so we had a small little lunch with the governor and told me we want some more money in Fuquay-Varina, and so we're working on that there. But that was good there, and a good experience with him for that. It was mentioned earlier, Brian, you were at Church Alive that day, and that same day, Commissioner Harris and I were at Fuquay-Varina Baptist Church that day, and they're doing a very similar type, or their event, and it was for Patriot service. And so not only do we get to be there, but also all of the, not all could be there, obviously, but several police and fire individuals were there at that same time, too. I'm being recognized. And so I appreciate Fuquay-Varina Baptist Church for recognizing everybody there. It was a nice service, and it was a nice lunch afterward, and I appreciate the fire and police departments going there that day. So they really appreciated seeing y'all there that day for their patriotic service. And there's a few other people from different areas of the community and around our area that came. But it meant a lot to the congregation that was there, that y'all were there, and the covered dish homemade lunch afterward was the best Southern cooked food I have had in forever. My grandma just cannot cook like that anymore, and so it was a very, very nice lunch afterward too. It was well attended. So just want to publicly let the Fuquay-Varina Baptist Church be in the record that we appreciate them. Yeah, no further comments. See y'all in town at our next events we have and August meeting. All right, take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Oh, God.
Now you
had
can
to
go.
do that.